Chapter 814. 814 Two Rays of Dragon Power. In the past 5 months, Lu Ming had devoured more than 150 portions of demonic beasts, blood essence that were at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm and above. It was naturally impossible for his bloodline to not improve. The prison-suppressing steel bloodline and the 9 dragons bloodline had both advanced by 1 level, reaching the 2nd level of the divine level. When the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline reached level 2 of the divine level, the prison-suppressing heavenly technique's power increased again, reaching the power of an upper-grade demigod martial technique. However, it should be equivalent to the first stage of an upper-grade demigod martial technique. Even so, its power was still several times stronger than the highest level of a low-grade demigod martial technique. A high-grade demigod martial technique was usually only mastered by a spirit embryo realm expert. Only then could it unleash its full power, and its might was terrifying. When his 9 dragon bloodline advanced to the 2nd level of the divine level, Lu Ming realized that there was an additional dragon energy. There were 2 dragon energies in his bloodline. This made Lu Ming look forward to the upgrade of his blood meridian even more. However, when it came to divine bloodlines, it was even more difficult to upgrade one's bloodline. However, the 3rd bloodline had yet to awaken. It was as if it was still brewing and accumulating. This made Lu Ming feel rather helpless. He could only wait. "Let's go. Follow me to hunt demonic beasts." Lu Ming instructed Wang Haoxian. In the past 5 months, Lu Ming had not engaged in any major battles. He had spent most of his time cultivating. It was not possible to just cultivate blindly. There must be a great battle. Only by combining the two could one cultivate the path of martial arts. Lu Ming planned to kill the demonic beasts in the Wild Beast Mountain range while collecting blood essence. Once the 9 Suns Supreme woke up, he would head to the Sea Cloud sect. He had agreed to meet Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin at the Sea Cloud sect half a year later. Wang Haoxian bit his lips and followed behind Lu Ming. He did not know what she was thinking. Lu Ming could not be bothered. She and Wang Haoxian went deep into the wild beast forest in search of high-level demonic beasts. Lu Ming could not be bothered to hunt demonic beasts at the 5th and 6th level of the spiritual ocean realm. Their blood essence was too poor for him. He had to at least hunt demonic beasts at the 7th level of the spiritual ocean tier and above. Very quickly, the two of them had traveled a distance of 100,000 miles. Roar! A giant black bear, 10 meters tall, with blood-red eyes, exuded a terrifying and powerful aura. This was a demonic beast at the peak of the 7th level spiritual ocean realm. It charged at Lu Ming fearlessly. A spear light condensed in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the spear light pierced through the void and pierced through the giant bear's head. Lu Ming could casually kill an ordinary cultivator at the peak 7th level of the spiritual ocean realm. The devouring power burst out from his palm, devouring the giant bear's blood essence and refining it. The refining power of the 2nd level divine level 9 dragon bloodline was extremely terrifying. In just a few minutes, the giant bear's blood essence was completely refined. The two of them continued to venture deeper. Not long after, a demonic beast at the 8th level of the spiritual ocean tier appeared, but it was still easily killed by Lu Ming. As the two of them advanced, the number of demonic beasts at the 7th level of the spiritual ocean realm and above that had died at Lu Ming's hands reached 10. Lu Ming used it to upgrade the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea. It did not cause any waves. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud noise in front of them. Sword Chi soared into the sky, and there were roars of demonic beasts. There were people fighting with demonic beasts. In the Wild Beast Mountain range, there were often people who entered to hunt demonic beasts, obtain materials, and also look for some spiritual herbs. Lu Ming was not bothered. He bypassed that place and continued to move forward. Before long, they had traveled another 10,000 miles. That seems to be a blood flower. Suddenly, a few spiritual flowers appeared in front of him. The spiritual flower was dark red in color, and it gave off a strong medicinal fragrance. The blood flower was an upper-level 6 spiritual medicine. Although Lu Ming did not think much of it, he would not miss it since he had seen it. Just as Lu Ming was about to walk over, there was a buzzing sound in the sky. A group of dark red flying insects flew toward Lu Ming and the rest. There were at least 10,000 of these dark red insects. A blood-stained bug that's equivalent to a peak-tier king. Lu Ming had an idea and recognized this type of flying insect. Who? Lu Ming did not make a move, but Wang Haoxin did. With a wave of her hand, purple flames filled the air and enveloped the sky. The next moment, tens of thousands of blood bugs were burned to ashes. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward. Suddenly dash. Buzz. Buzz. The sound of air being torn could be heard as 7 to 8 figures flew over at an extreme speed. Little fellow, those blood-stained flowers are ours. An old voice rang out. 8 figures appeared and stood above Lu Ming and the others. A vast aura filled the air. These 8 people were no doubt experts. 5 were at the 7th level of the spiritual ocean realm, and 3 were at the 8th level. No wonder they dared to venture so deep into the wild beast forest. Among the 8 people, there were white-haired old men and middle-aged men. Get lost, Lu Ming said in a cold voice. Little Z, what did you say? Don't you know how to respect your elders at such a young age? It seems that I have to teach you a good lesson on behalf of your elders. A short and chubby old man looked furious and glared at Lu Ming with an unfriendly gaze. A tremendous aura, the aura of the peak 7th level spiritual ocean realm, filled the air and pressed down on Lu Ming. If you still don't get lost, kill him. Lu Ming did not even look at the short and fat old man. He walked towards the blood-stained flower. He was talking to Wang Haoxin. You're looking for death. The short and fat old man roared in anger. A saber appeared in his hand. In a flash, he slashed at Lu Ming. However, the next moment, a figure appeared in front of the old man. A scorching aura filled the air as he threw a punch. Bang! The short and fat old man was like a firework, instantly turning into a flame and exploding, not even leaving a residue. Sky-burning flames, the Wang family's sky-burning flames. She's so young and yet so powerful. Could she be the Wang clan's god-tier prodigy, Wang Haoxin? It should be her. The other 7 people exclaimed. They came from a big force in 9 dragons, but that force was much weaker than the Wang family. Get lost or die, Wang Haoxin shouted coldly. The eyes of the 7 people flashed with deep fear. Although their cultivation was high, they still felt deep respect for such a god-tier heaven's favorite. The battle prowess of a god-tier heaven's favorite was too strong. It couldn't be measured by cultivation. But what shocked them the most was that Wang Haoxin seemed to listen to the young man. Just now, the young man had given Wang Haoxin an order. Who was that young man? It was unbelievable that he could command a god-level talent like Wang Haoxin. They looked at Lu Ming with a look of awe. It was a misunderstanding. Let's go, we'll leave immediately. The other 7 people laughed and flew forward at top speed, deep into the wild beast forest. Lu Ming could not be bothered and picked the blood-stained flower. After that, he continued to search for demonic beasts to kill. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. Roar! Suddenly, the earth-shaking roars of a few demonic beasts came from the front. Then, Lu Ming and the rest saw 2 figures flying wildly outside with frightened faces. These 2 people were 2 of the group who had wanted to snatch the blood-stained flower. Chapter 8:15. 8:15 Overpowering a peak 9th level spiritual ocean tier demonic beast. They were 2 old men, and they were covered in blood as they fled in fear. Behind them, there were a few huge demonic beasts that were chasing them. The auras on those demonic beasts were extremely terrifying. They were demonic beasts at the 9th level of the spiritual ocean realm. At this moment, the 2 elders also saw Lu Ming and his partner. Their eyes lit up and they rushed toward them at top speed, shouting, "Help! Help!" Lu Ming furrowed his brows. These 2 old fellows were obviously trying to shift the blame to them. Lu Ming would not let them have their way. Retreat! Lu Ming whispered and retreated with Wang Haoxin. Save us! The two elders chased after Lu Ming and the other man while the few powerful demonic beasts behind them continued to pursue them. You two, you can't just leave me in the lurch. The two old men called out. What did you take from those demonic beasts? Otherwise, why would they chase after you? Lu Ming snorted coldly. The two old men's expressions changed and one of them said, We didn't take anything. We just went deep in and encountered these demonic beasts. They were crazily chasing us. Our other companions were all killed by them, and we are the only two left. The two old men said as they flew towards them. Hand over your storage rings and I'll save you. Lu Ming sneered. These two old men must have taken something from those demonic beasts. Otherwise, why would those demonic beasts keep chasing them? You're robbing me. The two old men said. If you don't give it to me, then get lost. If you continue to pester me, I'll make a move. Lu Ming said. A cold glint flashed in the eyes of the two elders. They did not say a word and continued to pester Lu Ming and the rest as they flew toward them. Since Lu Ming and the rest did not take action, he would implicate them. Roar! A giant black wolf roared and charged at them at the fastest speed. This giant wolf had combat strength at the peak of the 9th level of the spiritual ocean realm. With a swipe of its claw, it enveloped the elder, Lu Ming, and the others. The two old men cried out in alarm and ran for their lives. Boom! Wang Haoxin took a step forward and threw out a fiery fist radiance, which collided with the wolf's claw. The giant wolf roared and a large part of its claw was burnt. However, Wang Haoxin was also forced to retreat. The giant wolf's eyes were blood red as it howled madly and pounced on the two old men without a care for its life. Since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. At this moment, Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. The infinite dragon spear appeared and swept out. The spear's radiance expanded and formed a huge spear pillar that swept toward the two elders. I can't. The two elders were shocked and tried their best to block it. However, how could they block Lu Ming's attack with their cultivation at the 8th level of the spiritual ocean tier? They were hit by the spear radiance and spat out mouthfuls of blood as their bodies flew towards the huge wolf demonic beast. Ow! The giant wolf demonic beast let out a long howl and slashed out its claw. Under the despairing eyes of the two elders, it tore them apart. Then, the giant wolf opened its mouth and swallowed the two elders' storage rings. It glanced at the two of them and actually turned to leave. You want to leave? Stay. Lu Ming would not let them leave. He strode forward and took a few steps. Boom! Boom! With 5 steps, the power of the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps exploded. The giant wolf demonic beast wailed as its huge body was stomped down, crashing into the ground below and creating a deep pit that was thousands of meters wide. Roar! At this moment, the other 2 demonic beasts also pounced over. These 2 demonic beasts, a giant tiger and a giant snake, both had peak 9th level spiritual ocean tier combat strength. With a shake of the long spear, 2 spear lights shot out. 2 wounds were left on the bodies of the 2 demonic beasts, causing blood to flow out. Roar! The fresh blood made the 2 demonic beasts pounce on Lu Ming even more frantically. The giant wolf struggled to its feet and stomped on the ground. The earth rumbled and gravel flew everywhere. The giant wolf soared into the sky and charged at Lu Ming. You don't need to do anything, I'll do it. On the side, Wang Haoxin was about to make a move but was stopped by Lu Ming. Coincidentally, there were a few opponents that Lu Ming could use as practice. The long spear trembled and was swung out. The spear light swept across the void, constantly sweeping and stabbing at the 3 demonic beasts. The 3 demonic beasts' roars were like thunder, shaking the heavens and earth. 3 attacks fire, ice, and lightning burst out from their bodies and headed towards Lu Ming. The giant tiger, giant wolf, and giant snake had claws as sharp as knives and bodies as hard as steel whips. They carried a terrifying attack power that could tear the body apart if hit. Lu Ming used the 3 absolutes of the Divine Dragon and the 9 Dragons' Heaven Stomping Steps from time to battle 3 peak 9th level spiritual ocean tier demonic beasts. He even had the upper hand. Wang Haoxin was shocked. Lu Ming had clearly not unleashed his full power yet. He had not used his bloodline martial arts technique, and he had also fused with a divine bloodline. Yet, he was able to suppress 3 peak 9th level spiritual ocean tier demonic beasts, while Lu Ming was only at the peak 5th level spiritual ocean tier. If it were her, she would only be able to suppress one of the demonic beasts if she fused with a divine level bloodline. At most, she would be able to fight to a draw with 3 demonic beasts. Gah! Just as Wang Haoxin was lost in his thoughts, a shrill scream rang out in the sky. The Silavir light flashed and appeared in front of Wang Haoxin in the next moment. Like the most terrifying heavenly blade, it slashed towards Wang Haoxin's head. Wang Haoxin's pupils shrank sharply, and his body was covered in flames. He threw a punch, and a scorching fist radiance was thrown out. Bang! The Silavir light and the fist radiance collided. In an instant, the fist radiance dissipated, and the Silavir light came again. Wang Haoxin retreated quickly and threw 2 punches at the same time. The 2 fist auras were dispersed again, but they were blocked for a while. Wang Haoxin had time to prepare. His divine bloodline appeared. Wang Haoxin merged with the bloodline and turned into a purple firebird, pouncing forward. Bang! The purple firebird and the Silavir light collided. With a loud boom, the purple firebird flew back, and the Silavir light also stopped. It was a giant Silavir bird with a wingspan of 50 meters. Its entire body was Silavir, as if it was cast from Silavir. Silavir ROC. Wang Haoxin's pupils shrank. The Silavir ROC had the bloodline of the divine beast, the golden-winged ROC. It was a descendant and was extremely powerful. Ordinary demonic beasts couldn't compare to it. Ordinary demonic beasts were like ordinary human martial artists, while demonic beasts that possessed the bloodline of divine beasts were like the prodigies of the human race. They had powerful combat strength and could fight across levels. Moreover, the higher the concentration of the divine beast bloodline, the stronger the talent and power. This Silavir ROC was also at the peak 9th level spiritual ocean realm. Gah! The Silavir ROC let out a shrill cry and pounced at Wang Haoxin again. Wang Haoxin had no choice but to flap his wings to face the attack. However, the Silavir ROC was much more powerful than the other 3 demonic beasts combined. After a few clashes, Wang Haoxin dispersed the flames and returned to his human form, spitting out blood. Buzz! The Silavir ROC turned into a flash of Silavir lightning. Its wings were like heavenly blades, and it slashed toward Wang Haoxin. Wang Haoxin's eyes were filled with despair. She had nowhere to run. Clang! The next moment, a figure appeared in front of her and struck out a palm, sending the Silavir ROC flying. Wang Haoxin widened his eyes in shock. Chapter 816. 816 Soul Gathering Stone. The person who appeared in front of Wang Haoxin was naturally Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's figure was much bigger and stronger than usual. His skin was covered with dense scales and his aura was extremely violent. Wang Haoxin looked in the other direction and realized that the 3 demonic beasts had all been killed by Lu Ming. Gah! The Silavir ROC let out a loud cry and pounced toward Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch, which collided with the Silavir ROC's wings. Kacha! The Silavir ROC's huge body was sent flying and it wailed in pain. One of its wings was deformed and its bone armor had been broken by Lu Ming. The Silavir ROC's blood-red eyes actually revealed a look of fear. It flapped its wings and turned to leave. You still want to run? Lu Ming took a step forward and caught up to the Silavir ROC. The violent force of the kick landed on the back of the Silavir ROC. The Silavir ROC wailed in pain and was sent flying to the ground. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand and he thrust it out, piercing through the Silavir ROC's heart and killing it. Wang Haoxin was shocked. The Esilever ROC, a descendant of the golden-winged giant roc, was killed by Lu Ming with a crushing force. This Esilever ROC had almost killed her just now. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. In that case, it would not be too difficult for Lu Ming to kill her now. Also, what kind of secret technique was that? It was so terrifying. His body was covered in scales like a demonic beast, and his aura was violent and terrifying. She felt extremely complicated. In her eyes, Lu Ming was becoming more and more mysterious and unfathomable. Lu Ming flew down and secretly devoured the Esilever ROC's blood essence. It's indeed powerful to release a burst of dragon power. Lu Ming thought to himself. Just now, he had used a burst of dragon power. After that, he used the prison suppressing heaven technique, which was so powerful that he killed 3 demonic beasts, blocked the Esilever ROC's attack on Wang Haoxian and killed it. I wonder how powerful it would be if 2 dragon powers were to burst out at the same time? Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. When the 9-dragon bloodline was raised to the 2nd level of the divine level, there would be 2 dragon powers. Let's go. Let's leave this place. Lu Ming said. You don't want these demonic beast corpses? Wang Haoxian asked. There were a total of 4 9th-level spiritual ocean tier demonic beast corpses, especially the Esilever ROC. The materials from its body were extremely valuable. If you want it, you can take it. Lu Ming waved his hands. With the wealth left behind by the 9 Suns Supreme Master, he didn't care about these demonic beasts at all. The spirit stones he exchanged for them wouldn't even be enough for him to swallow in a few bites. With that, Lu Ming stepped forward. Wang Haoxian looked at Lu Ming a few more times. After making sure that Lu Ming really did not want the bodies, she put the 4 corpses away. On a mountain peak tens of thousands of miles away, Lu Ming sat cross-legged, refining his blood essence. Wang Haoxian stood by Lu Ming's side, protecting him. The blood essence of the 4 demonic beasts at the 9th level of the spiritual ocean tier was extremely dense. However, with the refining power of the 9-dragon bloodline, it didn't take long for it to be completely refined. All the power of the blood essence flowed into the prison-suppressing steel bloodline, but the bloodline did not improve. It was still at level 2 of the divine level. What did those guys steal from those demonic beasts? And those demonic beasts were a little different from the other demonic beasts. Lu Ming muttered to himself. The demonic beasts in the wild beast forest were all affected by the killing intent here. They were all extremely violent and fearless. They had lost their intelligence and would not show any signs of fears. However, those demonic beasts showed fear after being injured by Lu Ming. The Esilever ROC's fear was even more intense. It even turned around and ran away. It was very different from the other demonic beasts, which made Lu Ming feel a little strange. Could it be because of the high level? Lu Ming shook his head. He decided not to bother about it for now. He wanted to see what the 2 elders had taken from the demonic beasts that caused the demonic beasts to chase after them. Lu Ming rummaged through the 2 storage rings. They were all spiritual crystals, a few rough stones, pills, and secret manuals. Lu Ming did not think much of them. In the end, Lu Ming found a metal box. The box was not big, but it was placed in a very important place. Lu Ming took it out and opened it to find a red stone inside. The stone was the size of a fist. Once the metal box was opened, a wondrous aura emanated from the stone. Lu Ming immediately felt his mind clear and he was in high spirits. Could it be the soul-gathering stone? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly bloomed with a bright light. The soul-gathering stone was a rare treasure that had a magical effect on the soul. Legend had it that when a person had just died and their soul had yet to disperse, if a soul-gathering stone was used to gather it, there would be a miraculous way to bring them back to life. Of course, there were some exaggerations in the legends, but it was definitely useful to the soul. Those guys must have taken this soul-gathering stone from the demonic beast. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Those demonic beasts must have regained some of their intelligence because of the soul-gathering stone. That was why they knew fear. That was why they had been chasing after the two old men to get the soul-gathering stone back. This soul congregation stone will definitely be of great use to Senior Jiuyang. At the thought of this, Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. If the soul of the Nine Sons Supreme was strengthened to a certain extent, he might really be able to be resurrected in the future and reappear in the world. Let's go back to the cave. Lu Ming stood up and flew back to the cave abode with Wang Haoxian. A few thousand miles away from the cave. I have at most a month before I leave the wild beast forest. During this time, you don't have to hunt demonic beasts. Cultivate on your own. I will send you a voice transmission when I am about to leave. Lu Ming instructed Wang Haoxian and flew to the cave abode alone. Soon he returned to the cave abode. The Nine Sons Cosmos was still sitting cross-legged, but the soul-consolidating tree had completely shriveled up. There was no energy left. Lu Ming guessed that the Nine Sons Cosmos would wake up soon. As expected, 3 days later, the Nine Sons Supreme woke up. Senior Jiuyang, how's your recovery? Nine Sons stepped forward to pay her respects and asked. My soul power has increased a lot. Finally, I won't fall into a deep sleep so easily. The supreme martial artist of the Nine Sons smiled. That's good. Senior Jiuyang, I've obtained a soul-gathering stone. It might be useful to you. Lu Ming took out the soul-gathering stone and held it in his palm. The eyes of the Nine Sons Supreme Master lit up instantly like two small suns. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the soul-gathering stone in his hand. He examined it for a moment and then laughed. It really is the soul-gathering stone. Ha, good. With this soul-gathering stone, my soul power will be greatly restored. Then I can help you. It's good that it's useful to you, Senior. Lu Ming was very happy. Lu Ming, thank you. I'll go back to the Supreme Shrine to refine it now. With that, the Nine Sons Supreme wrapped himself in the soul-gathering stone and turned into a ray of light, rushing into Lu Ming's glabella and disappearing. I'll cultivate for a while more, then I'll go to the Sea Cloud sect and meet up with Little Qing and the others. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Chapter 817. 817 Not good. Lu Ming continued to cultivate in seclusion. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. During this period of time, Lu Ming continued to use the origin stone to break through, raising his cultivation to the peak 6th level spiritual ocean realm in one fell swoop. However, the Earthwell was still stuck at the peak of the lower tier of level 2, unable to break into the upper tier of level 2. At this time, there were less than 10 days left until the half-year agreement. Little Qing, Fatty, and the others have already come out from the Tianqiong relic. I should also make a move. Lu Ming thought to himself. During this period of time, he had been communicating with Xian Yanqing and the rest through voice transmission. Otherwise, Xian Yanqing would be worried about Lu Ming's safety and would not be able to cultivate in peace. Knowing that they were safe, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin were able to cultivate in Tianqiong relic in peace. At the same time, Lu Ming could cultivate in peace and wait for the Nine Sons Supreme. Lu Ming packed his things and left the cave abode. He quickly flew out of the wild beast forest. Thousands of miles away, on a mountain peak, Wang Haoxian was standing against the wind. When she saw Lu Ming, she followed him obediently and flew out. Not long after, they were out of the wild beast forest. Suddenly, their bodies felt lighter. Their speed increased, and they turned into two rainbow lights, flying toward the east. Half a day later, they were close to the dragon vein in the east. Lu Ming brought Wang Haoxian and flew directly to the Sea Cloud sect. Lu Ming, how have you been? When Lu Ming arrived at the Sea Cloud sect, Qiao Xian stepped into the air and said with a smile. Ha, Qiao Xian, congratulations on breaking through to the Spirit Ocean and becoming a powerful being of the Spirit Ocean. Lu Ming's gaze swept across Qiao Xian and could tell that she had already broken through to the spiritual ocean tier. She was now at the peak of the first level of the spiritual ocean tier. I did break through, but you should be even more unfathomable. Qiao Xian smiled and looked at Wang Haoxian, who was behind Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you have such a beautiful woman with you. Be careful, Miss Nianqing will be jealous if she sees you. Don't worry, she's just my servant. Why would Xiao Qing be jealous? Lu Ming said with a smile. Wang Haoxian, who was standing behind Lu Ming, gritted his teeth and felt hatred in his heart. Maidservant. Xiao Xian was taken aback. She turned to Wang Haoxian and said, May I know elder sister's name? Wang Haoxian glanced at Xiao Xian and snorted, but he didn't answer. How could a disciple from a small power like Xiao Xian enter Wang Haoxian's eyes? She is Wang Haoxian. Lu Ming answered on her behalf. So it's Lady Wang. What? Wang Haoxian? Which Wang Haoxian? Xiao Xian started to nod, but she immediately reacted. Her pupils contracted and she looked at Lu Ming in shock, asking a few questions. Isn't it Wang Haoxian from the ancient Wang family? Lu Ming said casually. What? She was a god-level prodigy, Wang Haoxian? Your maidservant? Xiao Xian's voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes filled with shock. Who would believe that Wang Haoxian, a god-level prodigy, had become Lu Ming's maidservant? Xiao Xian thought she was dreaming. Wang Haoxian gritted his teeth unhappily. She knew that if this matter were to spread, her reputation would be tarnished, but what could she do? She was also helpless. Let's not talk about this first. Little Qing and Fatty should be here soon. Lu Ming said casually, his gaze looking into the distance. Xiao Xian kept taking deep breaths to calm herself down. This matter was simply too shocking. Soon, 2 rainbow lights appeared from the horizon. In a few breaths, they arrived in front of the Sea Cloud sect. As the rainbow light dissipated, Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin's figures appeared. Ha, Lu Ming, we meet again. I missed you so much. As soon as Kong Jin appeared, he burst into laughter and pounced on Lu Ming like a bear. However, the next moment he swept his gaze and saw Wang Haoxian standing behind Lu Ming. He felt as if his butt had been pricked by a needle and his body bounced up like a round ball. Wang Haoxian, is that you? What are you doing here? The fatty cried out in disbelief, and his aura burst out. The peak of the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm. After not seeing each other for half a year, Fatty's cultivation had reached the peak of the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier, only 1 step away from the 6th level. On the other side, Xian Yanqing's cultivation at the peak 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm erupted. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Wang Haoxian. What's wrong? Do you want to fight? Do you think you're my match? Wang Haoxian laughed coldly. A powerful aura burst out and pressed down on Fatty and Xian Yanqing. What are you doing? Retract your aura. Lu Ming cast a glance at Wang Haoxian and snorted. Wang Haoxian snorted and retracted his aura. He stood obediently behind Lu Ming. Fatty and Xian Yanqing were dumbfounded. Don't be nervous, she's my maidservant now. Lu Ming said with a smile. A maidservant? Fatty's mouth was as wide as a lamb leg, while Xian Yanqing's eyes were wide open. Previously, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not mention that Wang Haoxian had become his servant through voice transmission. The Jade Talisman could not explain clearly, but he said that he was fine and that they did not have to worry. Therefore, Xian Yanqing and the others were naturally shocked. Lu Ming, what's going on? Xian Yanqing's eyes widened. It's like this. Lu Ming explained how he subdued and toyed with Wang Haoxian, but he skipped the part about the 9 Yang Supreme. He only said that he had accidentally found the dark Yin grass and refined it into dark Yin powder, then controlled Wang Haoxian. It's actually like this? Lu Ming, I really admire you. It's so cool to have such a beautiful woman serving you every day. No, I also want to learn the Tao of inscription, I also want to learn. The fatty was the first to shout, his 2 little eyes were full of stars. It was as if he could already see countless proud girls surrounding him, serving him, and becoming his maidservants. Fatty, don't talk nonsense. I've been cultivating alone all this time. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he quickly explained. Lu Ming, both of you will be in the wild beast forest during this period of time. A cold voice came. Xian Yanqing's eyes swept between Lu Ming and Wang Haoxian with hostility. Little Qing, although we're both in the wild beast forest, we're all cultivating on our own. Lu Ming quickly explained. Young Master Lu Ming, the bed is ready. Do you need me to help you warm it up? At this moment, Wang Haoxian spoke. Lu Ming's eyelids twitched. He turned around and glared at Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian's lips curled up slightly and he looked smug. Nest, this is revenge, pure revenge. Lu Ming screamed in his heart. As expected, Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth and his eyes widened. With a cold expression, he squeezed out a sentence. Pervert, Lu Ming, you're indeed a perverted man. I'm innocent. Lu Ming was speechless. What did he mean by perverted? When was he lecherous? Wang Haoxian, don't talk nonsense. Lu Ming berated. Wang Haoxian immediately put on an aggrieved expression. He pinched his fingers and lowered his head, pretending to be obedient and not say a word. Chapter 818. 818 Killing their way to the Wind Sword Sect. Lu Ming, you're amazing. You've managed to train that violent woman, Wang Haoxian, to be so obedient. I'm impressed. Fatty had touched a sore spot. Lu Ming. Xian Yanqing shrieked. A powerful aura burst out of his body and the sky demon force field enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He moved his body and penetrated the heavy force field. He appeared beside Xian Yanqing and wrapped his arm around Xian Yanqing's waist. Xian Yanqing's body trembled and the force field disappeared. Silly girl, can't you tell that she did it on purpose? I only have you in my heart. How can Wang Haoxian touch my heart? Lu Ming whispered in Xian Yanqing's ear. This action was really intimate. Xian Yanqing looked around and saw Fatty, Xiao Xian, and Wang Haoxian staring at them with wide eyes. His face turned red and he struggled. Lu Ming, let me go. If you don't believe me, I won't let go. Lu Ming said with a smile. I believe in you. Xian Yanqing admitted defeat. Lu Ming's arm then loosened. Xian Yanqing struggled and flew out, his face red. Huh, the weather's pretty good today. Don't you think so, Sister Xiao Xian? Fatty laughed and turned to look elsewhere. Yes, I am. Xiao Xian also turned in another direction. Xian Yanqing's face turned even redder and he glared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, on the other hand, looked at Xian Yanqing with a smile. After the banter, the few of them started chatting. Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin had some fortuitous encounters in the Sky Dome relic. Their cultivation had reached the peak 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm, and their comprehension of concepts had far surpassed Lu Ming's. However, just like Lu Ming, their third bloodline had not been awakened yet. It seemed to be still accumulating. Now, you're no match for me, Lu Ming said with a smile. Don't be so smug. When I awaken my third bloodline, I'll definitely defeat you. Xian Yanqing snorted and pouted. Especially when he looked at Wang Haoxian, his eyes were extremely unfriendly, as if he was still brooding over it. Hey, someone's coming. Lu Ming suddenly looked into the distance. A sword light cut through the void at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived before him. The sword light dissipated, and a beautiful woman appeared. Ting Ting. The fatty was overjoyed when he saw the woman and hurriedly went up to her. This young woman was Ruan Tingting. Fatty, Lu Ming, Miss Yanqing, I didn't expect you to be here. Ruan Tingting was overjoyed to see Lu Ming and the rest. Tingting, long time no see. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing also greeted Ruan Tingting. After not seeing each other for half a year, Ruan Tingting had already pulled through that period of sadness. There was a heroic spirit on her body, making her look heroic and cool. Tingting, aren't you cultivating in Di Tian's royal guards? What are you doing here? Fatty asked. I came here with Big Brother Long Qianli. Recently, the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Heavenly Demon Valley have sent their geniuses to 9 dragons to challenge the geniuses of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. There are geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect blocking the entrance of a holy land on the Dragon Vein in the east. They are very arrogant, so Big Brother Long Qianli wanted to meet them, so I followed them. I'll also go to the Windsword sect to avenge my parents. Ruan Tingting explained. The Heavenly Corpse sect and the geniuses of the Heavenly Demon Valley are all here. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the rest were stunned. Yes, I heard that the most powerful group of future geniuses, such as the Heavenly Corpse sect, sent the sovereigns ranked below the 100th on the list of top 1,000 talents. Ruan Tingting said. This is normal. Before every battle of Kismet, the Overlord forces will send their geniuses to each other's territory. The purpose is to test the strength of each other's geniuses. In the past, the Empyrean Divine Palace also sent their geniuses to the Heavenly Corpse sect. This time, the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Sky Demon Valley have come together, said Wang Haoxian. She was a genius of the Wang clan and knew the situation better. Lu Ming nodded. This was understandable. Although the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect were mortal enemies, they didn't kill the envoys. When the other party's geniuses came, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace could only send their geniuses to face the enemy. Tingting, let's go to the Windsword sect first. After we deal with them, we'll go take a look together. Lu Ming said. He also wanted to see the strength of the Heavenly Corpse sect's paragons. All right. Ruan Tingting nodded. The group of them then headed towards the Windsword sect. Lu Ming could tell that Ruan Tingting's cultivation had already reached the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. It was obvious that Ruan Tingting had been heavily nurtured in the Ditian Royal Guards for the past 6 months. In addition to the inheritance of blue-gold supremacy, her cultivation had progressed so quickly. Naturally, Lu Ming and the rest were not together to help Ruan Tingting take revenge. Back then, Lu Ming had said that he would let Ruan Tingting take revenge herself. They were going together to prevent any accidents. Soon, the Windsword sect's mountain gate came into view. Who's there? This is the Windsword sect, stop right there. At the Windsword sect's mountain gate, the disciples guarding the mountain shouted. Don't you guys recognize me? Ruan Tingting strode forward with a gloomy expression. Ruan Tingting, you're Ruan Tingting. The expression of the disciples guarding the mountain changed drastically. I won't kill you, go get old man Yif, come out and face your death. Ruan Tingting said. Just you wait. The disciple turned around and ran away. Clang, clang, clang. After a while, urgent bell chimes came from the Windsword sect. Then, a large number of figures appeared in the depths of the Windsword sect. Yifa, Yiqing, and a few elders from the Windsword sect. However, they stopped in the depths of the Windsword sect and did not walk out. Yifa's eyes swept across them and said, Tingting, what happened back then was our fault. However, because of this, the Windsword sect's patriarch died in battle. A few other experts also died. Qing Er's cultivation was also crippled. Can we just let this matter end? Shut up. Don't call my name. End it? Sure, but I'll end it after I cut off your head. Ruan Tingting said coldly, her killing intent extremely thick. During this period of time, she had been cultivating with all her might, hoping that one day, she would be able to charge into the Windsword sect and avenge her parents. How could this matter be easily levered? Yifa's eyes were cold, but he didn't say anything. Since you're not coming out, I'll kill my way in. As soon as Ruan Tingting finished speaking, the sound of a sword rang out. A blue sword chi soared into the sky. As the sword chi crisscrossed, Ruan Tingting strode forward. 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. Yifa and the others' expressions changed. They were in disbelief. Lu Ming's eyes swept across the surroundings and a cold smile appeared on his face. Let's go in and take a look. Then, they followed Ruan Tingting and stepped out. Seeing that Lu Ming and the rest had entered the Windsword sect's territory, Yifa's eyes turned cold. His killing intent flashed as he shouted, Great formation, rise. Then, dense runes appeared all over the mountains and plains of the Windsword sect. Streaks of sword chi condensed in the air, and a powerful pressure permeated the air. This was a killing formation, a level 6 killing formation, and it was extremely powerful. Back then, Lu Ming and the others had caused a huge commotion in the 100 Venerates Mountain. In the end, Ruan Tingting had been taken away by the Dition Imperial Guards. Naturally, Yi Fa had heard about it. Chapter 819. 819. What a trashy formation. Although they didn't know the exact process of that incident, they heard that Ruan Tingting had a great opportunity. During this period of time, Yi Fa was filled with worry and anticipation. He hoped that Ruan Tingting would be killed in the brutal competition. At the same time, he was also making preparations. He had paid a huge price to hire a 6th-rank true inscription alchemist to inscribe an extremely powerful killing formation in the Wind Sword sect. As long as Ruan Tingting and Lu Ming stepped into the Wind Sword sect, he would activate the killing formation and kill them. Little bitch, I've already given you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Even a 6th-level spiritual ocean tier martial artist will die if he steps into this array. Now, let's see how you're going to kill me. Yi Fa's face was extremely gloomy as he spoke coldly. Ruan Tingting's brows twitched as she cursed in her heart. She had been too careless. Hee, sect leader Yi, you think you can kill us with this formation? You're too naive. At this moment, Lu Ming chuckled. It's more than enough to kill you. Yi Fa said coldly. However, his eyes flashed with a serious look. In reality, the one he feared the most was not Ruan Tingting, but Lu Ming and the rest. In his eyes, Lu Ming and the rest were unfathomable. More than half a year ago, in that competition, the Wind Sword sect had been completely defeated by Lu Ming and the rest. He had built this large array mainly to deal with Lu Ming and the rest. You think too highly of your array. To be honest, I don't know what kind of inscriber you've hired. They're complete trash. You want to trap us with a trash array? You're too naive. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward. With every step that Lu Ming took, a circle of dense inscriptions would appear on the ground. These inscriptions seemed to be alive and were actually moving on the ground. Yi Fa's expression changed drastically and he shouted, "You're also an inscription master? Take control of the formation and kill them." The formation around them shook. In the sky, endless sword chi gathered, exuding a terrifying power as it shot toward Lu Ming and the others. Xian Yanqing, Fatty, Ruan Tingting, and even Wang Haoxin didn't move at all, as if they didn't see the sword chi. They had all seen how strong Lu Ming's refinement path was. However, Lu Ming still had a smile on his face. He took a step forward and said softly, "Break." As soon as he finished speaking, the sword chi that was stabbing at them from all directions collapsed. Pucci. The inscriptions around the Wind Sword sect were like fire falling into ice. With a sizzling sound, they disappeared without a trace. As Lu Ming finished speaking, the large array was broken. Yi Fa, Yi Qing, and some of the Wind Sword sect elders' faces paled. They turned pale and bloodless. Yi Fa had paid a huge price to hire a 6th-rank true inscription alchemist and spent half a month to perfect the formation that could kill a 6th-level spiritual ocean tier expert. To think that it was broken by Lu Ming while he was talking and laughing. This was too shocking. Could it be that not only was Lu Ming's martial arts cultivation so powerful, but his Tao of inscription was also so terrifying that all his plans were useless in an instant? They felt a chill in their hearts and were in despair. Ruan Tingting, didn't you want to take revenge? If you want to take revenge, then do it yourself. Why did you call for help? Since that's the case, I admit defeat today. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Yi Fa called out to Ruan Tingting. Yi Fa, you don't have to use such a low-level method to provoke me. If it was a direct battle, I wouldn't interfere. But if you use such a method, I will definitely interfere. Lu Ming smiled. You won't interfere? You said it, don't go back on your word. Yi Fa shouted. Naturally I won't. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Ruan Tingting, what about you? Yi Fa was still worried and looked at Ruan Tingting. I will kill you all with my own hands. Ruan Tingting's answer was very obvious. All right, since that's the case, let's attack and kill this little bitch. Yi Fa gritted his teeth and said in a dark voice. Suddenly, Two old men rushed out from behind Yi Fa, and their powerful auras filled the air. Fifth level of the spiritual ocean tier. Xiao Xian exclaimed. These two old men were actually at the fifth level of the spiritual ocean tier. The Wind Sword sect definitely did not have such powerful experts. Yi Fa must have paid a huge price to invite them. What Yi Fa said just now was to get Lu Ming and the rest to not make a move. Then he would let two experts at the fifth level of the spiritual ocean tier kill Ruan Tingting. His intentions were vicious. Lu Ming, Tingting Shi. Xiao Xian looked at Lu Ming worriedly. No problem, Tingting should be able to handle it. Lu Ming said. He had long noticed that there were two experts at the fifth level of the spiritual ocean tier behind Yi Fa, but he trusted Ruan Tingting. Ruan Tingting had received Supremacy Lan Jin's inheritance, which was a god-grade cultivation technique. In addition, Ruan Tingting's talent was unparalleled. In the past, it was only buried in the Wind Sword sect. Otherwise, she would not have received Supremacy Lan Jin's inheritance. With a divine-grade cultivation technique as a foundation, it wouldn't be a big problem for him to cross two levels and deal with two ordinary fifth-level spiritual ocean tier cultivators after cultivating in the Emperor Heaven Royal Guards for so long. Buzz! The sword radiance whistled, and the blue sword chi soared into the sky as if it could tear everything apart. Sword concept. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Ruan Tingting had evil levered the mentality of sword from the mentality of metal. Kill! Ruan Tingting shouted and stepped forward. Her sword chi whistled as she charged towards the two elders. The two old men used all their strength, but after a few moves, they began to be at a disadvantage. Ruan Tingting's blue sword light was condensed from a god-tier cultivation technique, and with the sword intent, it was simply invincible. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sword chi tore through the two old men's attack and defense. Spare me! The two old men wanted to beg for mercy, but the sword chi pierced through the void and pierced through their throats. The two old men were dead. How did this happen? Yi Fa, Yi Qing, and the others turned pale and despaired. Ruan Tingting's eyes were filled with killing intent as she stepped forward. Her sword chi shot into the sky as she walked towards Yi Fa. Tingting, Tingting, please spare us. I treated you well back then. Yi Fa screamed and began to beg for mercy. You're treating me well? Marrying me to the two monsters of Qing He in exchange for your children's opportunities? Is this treating me well? You used my parents to force me and caused them to die in the end. Is this how you treat me? Ruan Tingting sneered. That was just a moment of confusion. Tingting, if you kill me, the Wind Sword sect will no longer exist. It will fall apart and be erased from the world. Yi Fa did not give up and continued to shout. What does the Wind Sword sect's non-existence have to do with me? Ruan Tingting remained unmoved and strode forward. Her sword chi whistled out and pierced forward. A few Wind Sword sect elders shouted in anger as they unleashed their full strength in an attempt to block the attack. However, it was all in vain as the sword chi pierced through their foreheads. Run, run! The other higher-ups of the Subsword sect ran for their lives. However, the sword chi pierced through the air and killed those people one by one. In the end, only Yi Fa and Yi Qing were left. The two of them trembled, their faces pale. They were in despair. Back then, they had forced Ruan Tingting into a corner, but they never expected this to happen. Buzz! Yi Fa and Yi Qing could not resist the sword light at all. The two figures fell to the ground. The upper echelons of the Wind Sword sect had all been annihilated. Chapter 820. 820 Heavenly Corpse Sex Paragon. Father, Mother, Tingting has avenged you. Ruan Tingting held the sword in her hand and whispered. Tingting, let's go. The Wind Sword sect's upper echelons have been completely annihilated. It will soon be swallowed up by other forces. From then on, the Wind Sword sect will no longer exist. Fatty walked up and patted Ruan Tingting's shoulder. He was afraid that Ruan Tingting would sink into hatred and murder, unable to extricate herself. Taking a deep breath, Ruan Tingting shook her sword and the blood on the blade evaporated. She put away the sword and smiled, Fatty, thank you. He then walked toward Lu Ming and the rest. Lu Ming, monsieur, thank you. The reason why she could reach the stage and take revenge was all because of Lu Ming and a few others. Back then, when she had obtained the legacy and was hunted down by the Wan family and the Jiang family, Lu Ming and the rest had protected her with their lives. Otherwise, she would not be where she was today. Since we're friends, there's no need to thank me. Let's go and see the Heavenly Corpse sex elites. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Under the shocked gazes of many Windsword sect disciples, they left the Windsword sect and flew in the direction of the Dragon Vein. According to Ruan Tingting, at the entrance of a cultivation's sacred ground in the Dragon Vein, there were geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect who set up a battle platform to challenge the geniuses of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. It had been a few days, and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was completely at a disadvantage. That was why Long Qianli had brought his men here, hoping to stabilize the situation. Before the Battle of Providence, the Overlord factions would send their elites. First, it could be used as a form of training and to test the other side's strength. Second, it could also strike a blow to the other side's morale. Together with Ruan Tingting, Lu Ming and the rest flew toward the Dragon Vein. The Wushang Valley was a relatively famous cultivation holy land on the Dragon Vein occupied by the Wang family. It was of a higher level than the 100 venerated mountains, and there were more geniuses cultivating here. For example, many quasi-god heavens favorites ranked 300 to 400 would choose to cultivate here. The paragons of the Heavenly Corpse sect pulled up a stone platform from the ground at the entrance of the Wushang Valley and used it as a battle platform. The 8 paragons of the Heavenly Corpse sect stood on one side of the fighting ring. They were all wearing black robes and had cold smiles on their faces. Another paragon of the Heavenly Corpse sect stood in the middle of the platform, looking around. There were many figures surrounding the fighting ring. They were all geniuses and geniuses of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Long Qianli stood at the front. The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace only has so few geniuses? Those at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, who else wants to come up for a fight? In the middle of the fighting ring, the paragons of the Heavenly Corpse sect looked around with a smug expression. For a moment, no one dared to go up. Just now, that paragon of the Heavenly Corpse sect had already defeated 3 paragons at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier in a row. He was extremely powerful. Damn it. The Heavenly Corpse sect must have selected the top figures of all levels through a series of selections. Our Empyrean Divine Palace naturally has such figures. It's just that they're not here for a while. That's right, we were just caught off guard by them. The people from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace were discussing animatedly. They were extremely indignant. The geniuses from the Heavenly Corpse sect were naturally the best of their respective levels. They were invincible among their peers. They had no way of finding so many experts in such a short time. Blood Sword 19, if you have the ability, let's fight. Long Qianli took a step forward and stared at the man in the middle of the 8 Heavenly Corpse sect elites. Blood Sword 19 was a god-grade genius of the Heavenly Corpse sect, ranked 294th, while Long Qianli was ranked 295th. The two of them were equal in rank. Why are you so anxious? Wait a moment, let the others compete first. After that, I will naturally fight you. Suddenly, another person was born in the crowd. A figure stepped on the air and ascended. Wang Ju. Lu Ming was slightly stunned. As expected of a quasi-heaven's favorite on the list of top 1,000 talents, Luan Fenyun's combat strength was extremely powerful. Not many people of the same level could avoid this arrow. Xian Yanqing, Fatty, and the others didn't move at all. They didn't seem worried at all. Lu Ming did not move and allowed the arrows to hit him. It was as if Lu Ming had not reacted at all. Lu Ming was going to die. Many people had this thought. Chapter 822. 822 Chapter 822 Retreating without fighting. However, he now realized that Lu Ming's cultivation was unfathomable. His combat strength was even more terrifying. Even Luan Fengyun was crushed by Lu Ming. This made him extremely shocked. At this moment, Lu Ming's gaze turned to him. "Now, do you still want to fight?" A calm voice was heard. Everyone's eyes were focused on Wang Ju. "Do you still want to fight?" There was no need for him to answer this question. If Luan Fengyun was easily defeated, then if he were to fight, wouldn't he be even more defeated? Wang Ju's face turned green and then white. Finally, he gritted his teeth and turned around to leave. He turned into a rainbow light and left this place directly. He retreated without fighting. No one felt that Wang Ju's retreat was a sign of cowardice. In fact, many people agreed with Wang Ju's actions. When faced with an opponent that he could not defeat, perhaps retreating was the wisest choice. Lu Ming smiled faintly and returned to Xian Yanqing and the rest. In front of the stone platform, Long Qianli's eyes glowed as he looked at Lu Ming. He was shocked that he could not see through Lu Ming. He still remembered that half a year ago, in the 100 Venerates mountain, Lu Ming and the others had to rely on his reputation to leave the mountain. However, in just half a year, Lu Ming had already given Long Qianli an unfathomable feeling. Interesting. On the stone platform, Blood Sword 19 sneered. Then he looked around again and said, "Since there's no one else at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier to fight, then let's have a battle at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Blood Glow, you go." "Yes." A young man beside Blood Sword 19 nodded and stepped forward, appearing in the center of the stone platform. The aura on his body burst out. The peak of the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm. 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier, who's going to come up and fight? Shui Mang's face was pale, but his eyes were as red as blood. The surroundings of the stone platform were completely silent. This time, the Sky Corps sect had obviously sent out top experts of all levels. Their combat strength was almost invincible among those of the same level. This bloody light was obviously such a figure. If one didn't have the confidence, going up would only be embarrassing. "I'll go." After a while, a voice was heard. A young man in a red robe flew up to the fighting ring. Everyone recognized that this person was a quasi-god prodigy of the Wang clan. He was extremely powerful. Boom! Blazing flames filled the air as the Wang clan's heaven's favorite roared and charged toward the blood-red light. Buzz! The sword hummed as the blood-colored sword chi surged. The blood-colored light emitted a dense blood chi as it fought with the Wang clan's heaven's favorite. The blood-intent realm of the Heavenly Corpse sect is extremely powerful. The Wang family is no match for it. Lu Ming shook his head. Sure enough, after a dozen moves, the Wang clan's paragon was no match for him and was suppressed. After a few more moves, he was forced to cough up blood from the blood-red light and lost. Who else wants to fight? The bloody glow continued to challenge him with a hint of disdain in its eyes. "Damn it, I'll fight you." A burly young man roared and rushed up the stone platform. However, this young man was even weaker than the Wang clan's Heaven's Pride expert. He was defeated in less than 10 moves. For a time, no one went up the stage to fight. It's a pity that Luan Fengyun was defeated. Originally, Luan Fengyun was an important battle power of the 5th level spiritual ocean tier, and might be the strongest 5th level spiritual ocean tier at the scene. He might have been able to fight the other party. Now that Luan Fengyun's arm has been severed, no one at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier can fight him. Soft discussions could be heard from the surroundings. "Chaotic wind and cloud is nothing. Let me teach him how to behave." When the fatty heard this, he was instantly displeased. He grinned, carried his battle axe, and stepped forward onto the stone platform. Lu Ming and the rest smiled. They were not worried about the fatty. In a battle of the same level, unless fatty encountered a genius who had awakened a divine bloodline, he would not lose. "Brat, you're very arrogant. Let me serve you." The fat man held the axe in one hand and spun a few times in the air. The door-sized axe whistled with the wind as it looked at the blood-red light provocatively. It was as if he was a peerless master. "This fatty, can he do it?" Some people expressed their doubts. I should be able to, right? Back at the 100 Venerated Mountains, this Fatty and Lu Ming fought against the Luan family and the Jiang family's experts. The combat strength they displayed was also extremely powerful. Someone replied. Some of them looked at Fatty with hope, hoping that he would win. Fight. The blood-red light was very straightforward. The blood-red sword soared into the sky and slashed at Fatty. Nest, I haven't even told you to start, and you've already made a move. You're cheating. The fat man shouted. He turned the broad axe in his hand and blocked in front of him. Clang! The blood-red sword light stabbed the fat man's broad axe, making a sound of metal clashing. You dare to sneak attack me, take this. The fat man's battle axe shook, and the blood-red light felt a great force. His expression changed, and his body could not help but retreat. The moment he retreated, he was greeted by Fatty's storm-like attacks. The battle axe was like a whirlwind, continuously slashing at the blood-red light. Every strike seemed to be able to split the sky. The blood-red light's expression changed drastically. It tried its best to block, but with every move it blocked, it would take a step back. After 10 consecutive axe strikes, the blood-red light spat out a large mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He won. The Fatty had won with a crushing force. Many people didn't even have time to react. You're really weak. The fat man laughed. All right. Fatty, you're amazing. Many people laughed out loud, revealing carefree expressions. He had finally won one battle. He had lost too many battles in the past 2 days. He had been caught off guard by the Heavenly Corpse sect and lost many battles in a row. Now, he had finally won one battle. This Fatty is standing together with Lu Ming. Of course, he's not bad. Birds of a feather flock together. Those who are able to walk together are most likely geniuses of the same level. Indeed. The discussions around him made Fatty feel even more comfortable. A Heavenly Corpse sect. Do you have any stronger ones? Hurry up and send them out. I'll take care of them one by one. The battle axe in Fatty's hands swayed back and forth, causing a strong wind to blow. Blood Sword 19 snorted coldly. This time, Shui Mang was the strongest among the 5th-level spiritual ocean tier geniuses that he had brought. He had originally thought that he would be able to obtain consecutive victories by catching the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace off guard and dampen their spirit. He didn't expect a Fatty to appear out of nowhere with unbelievable battle prowess. Did you awaken a divine bloodline? The 19th Blood Sword asked coldly. If Fatty was a god-tier prodigy who had awakened a god-tier bloodline, there would be no glory even if he won. Nonsense. If I had awakened a divine bloodline, I wouldn't have needed so many moves to defeat him. One move would have been enough. The fat man pouted. All right, you guys win this battle. The 19th Blood Sword then turned to Long Qianli and said, Long Qianli, why don't we have a battle between god-tier geniuses? As soon as he said that, everyone's hearts trembled and their eyes lit up. The main event was about to begin. It was finally time for the battle between the god-tier prodigies. Awakening a divine bloodline and not awakening a divine bloodline were two different concepts. Most of the Heaven's Pride experts only awakened a king-level bloodline, and many of them were only at the 9th level. It was too difficult to awaken a divine bloodline. Chapter 823. 823 Chapter 823 Battle between God-tier geniuses. The last time the list of top 1,000 talents was made, only the top 300 had awakened the divine bloodline. 300 people, including the Talisman Amulet sect, Heavenly Corpse sect, and Emperor Sky Divine Palace, were from hundreds of large domains. In such a large domain, there were only 300 people. How rare was that? Even with the addition of some rising stars, it wouldn't be too much. Therefore, under normal circumstances, it was rare to see a battle between god-tier geniuses. It was only before the Battle of Providence, when all the supreme geniuses gathered, that there would be clashes between god-level supreme geniuses. As time passed and the Battle of Providence neared, The clashes between God-level supreme geniuses would definitely increase and become more intense. "Huh, Bloodsword 19, are you finally going to fight? I'll play with you." Long Qianli laughed and stepped onto the stone platform. "Long Qianli, you've misunderstood. This time, I'm not the one fighting. It's my junior brother, Buayu. You can fight." Bloodsword 19 laughed. Buzz. As soon as Bloodsword 19's voice fell, a figure flashed and suddenly appeared in front of Long Qianli. So fast. Many people were shocked. They almost didn't see when Ghost Moon appeared in front of Long Qianli. It was as if he had been standing there the whole time. "Your Ghost Moon?" Long Qianli asked with a frown. "Not bad." Jiuyu was born indifferently. Looking at her appearance, she was very young, not more than 25 years old. Many people's eyes flickered because the name Jiuyu was very unfamiliar. He wasn't on the list of top 1,000 talents at all. He should be a newly rising heaven's favorite. "Make your move." Long Qianli did not let his guard down at all. A powerful aura emanated from his body as a black spear appeared in his hand. The spear radiance soared into the sky. Peak 6th level spiritual ocean tier. Just like Wang Haoxin, Long Qianli's cultivation had also reached the peak 6th level spiritual ocean realm. His eyes were bright as he stared at Ghost Moon. Since Ghost Moon dared to fight him, she must be a god-tier heaven's favorite. She must be very powerful, and he naturally didn't dare to underestimate her. However, Ghost Moon shook his head and said, "You're not my match." As soon as he said that, the scene was in an uproar. This guy is so arrogant. We haven't even fought yet and he's already saying that Long Qianli is no match for him. He's too narcissistic. That's right. Who is Long Qianli? He's a god-tier prodigy. How dare he talk so big? How detestable. Brother Long, teach him a good lesson. Some people from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace roared in anger, feeling extremely indignant. "Make your move. Weizhan, you're too full of yourself." Long Qianli's eyes were filled with anger. He had been looked down upon even before the battle. A genius like him was naturally unhappy. Swish. A scimitar appeared in Ghost Moon's hand. "I've already said that you're not my match. If you add her, it'll be interesting." Then he pointed his scimitar at Wang Haoxin. "Wang Haoxin, you're also a god-tier heaven's favorite. Come at me together with Long Qianli. I'm more interested in fighting you." Ghost Moon said indifferently. His tone was not loud, but it revealed a strong self-confidence. Wang Haoxin frowned and his eyes were sharp. Since he was challenged in public, there was no reason for him not to fight. She looked at Lu Ming. If she wanted to fight, she had to get Lu Ming's permission. "If you want to fight, just go." Lu Ming smiled faintly. Many people's jaws almost dropped. Wang Haoxin had to get Lu Ming's permission to fight. Could it be that Wang Haoxin had been conquered by Lu Ming and had become his woman? Many people could not help but have this thought. They looked at Lu Ming with a look of jealousy and envy. In fact, many of them even looked at him with admiration. To be able to conquer a woman like Wang Haoxin, he had to be impressed. "Umph." Xian Yanqing snorted and pouted. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose, pretending that he did not see it. Wang Haoxin nodded. He took a step forward and appeared on the stone platform. "Long Qianli, since he wants to challenge us, let's fight." Wang Haoxin said coldly. A terrifying heat emanated from his body, and purple flames erupted. "All right, since this person is so confident, he must have some capital. Be careful." Long Qianli sent a voice transmission to Wang Haoxin. His aura grew stronger and he pointed his spear at Ghost Moon. "Make your move." "Hee, interesting." Ghost Moon sneered, and a black light burst out from his body. In the black light, there were countless figures screaming, giving off a horrifying aura. "Kill!" Jiuyu shouted coldly. His body disappeared in a flash. The next moment, a cold light slashed at Long Qianli's throat. Without a doubt, Ghost Moon's cultivation was also at the peak 6th level spiritual ocean tier. Long Qianli's long spear shook and instantly struck forward, clashing with the saber light. With a clang, the saber light was repelled, but in the next moment, the saber light appeared at Wang Haoxian's throat. Wang Haoxian punched out with both fists, and the scorching fist radiance burned everything. Boom! The blade light was destroyed, and a figure flashed and appeared in front of him. It was Ghost Moon. You have some skills. Next, let's get to the main topic. As soon as Ghost Moon's voice fell, endless black qi filled the air. Within the black qi, ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard. The sound was miserable and extremely harsh. On the stone platform, many people's faces turned pale and they spat out a mouthful of blood. They were shocked and retreated quickly, shouting, "This is the will of evil ghost. Don't get too close." Many people quickly retreated and only dared to stop after they had retreated a long distance. Lu Ming waved his hand and a wall of vital essence appeared in front of him, blocking the spread of the will of evil ghosts. The evil ghost intent domain was extremely strange. It could affect one's soul and mind through the wailing of ghosts and howls of wallevers. It was a kind of intent domain similar to sound waves. Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian's expressions turned serious as they unleashed their wills to resist. Kill! At the same time, the two of them attacked at the same time. A violent attack was launched at Ghost Moon. Ghost Moon's saber art. "You're too weak," Jiuyu said softly. Her body trembled and disappeared again. The next moment, countless saber lights suddenly flashed on the stone platform and continuously slashed at Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. Each blade light was extremely powerful, fast, and at an extremely tricky angle. No one knew where they would come from. It was as if there could be blade lights coming from any corner of the stone platform. What a strange cultivation technique. Lu Ming's eyes glowed as he stared at the stone platform. Ghost Moon's attack naturally couldn't escape his eyes. He found that Ghost Moon's body seemed to have become one with the will of the evil ghost. Wherever the will of the evil ghost was, his body could reach it in an instant. It was fast and vicious, extremely strange. The only way to break this attack was to use a powerful method to break through the will of the evil ghost. Obviously, Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian had thought of it too. With a dragon's roar, a three-headed demon flood dragon with a dazzling golden chakra appeared above Long Qianli's head. At the same time, Wang Haoxian's divine bloodline also burst out. The space seemed to have been shattered, and the black moon trembled violently. Then, it was sent flying into the sky by the terrifying Powerch. This scene, in the eyes of the crowd, was like a person hitting the moon. A palm strike that sent the moon flying. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock as they looked at the figure. It's him. Lu Ming. A name appeared in everyone's mind. This figure was Lu Ming. Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian had been defeated, but Ghost Moon was still attacking. Therefore, Lu Ming had to stop her. It's you. If you dare to stop me, I'll kill you as well. An angry roar came from the pitch-black moon. The black light was like a blade. However, Lu Ming stretched out his palm and all the blade gleams were shattered. Buzz! Lu Ming took a step forward and approached the moon. He struck out with his palm. Bang! The pitch-black moon was like a rubber ball. It was sent flying high into the sky by Lu Ming's palm. Buzz! Lu Ming took a few steps forward and his body was like a stream of light. He soared into the sky in an instant and appeared above the black moon. A terrifying devouring power erupted from his left hand and enveloped the dark moon, causing it to tremble violently. What's going on? My bloodline! A terrified scream came from the dark moon. Bang! The next moment, Lu Ming struck his palm heavily on the dark moon. The pitch-black moon instantly burst like a black balloon. Ghost Moon's figure appeared and rapidly fell to the ground. Ta! Lu Ming took a few steps forward, his figure falling like a meteor at high speed. The violent energy blasted Ghost Moon's body. Boom! Ghost Moon's body heavily hit the ground. The earth shook, rocks flew, and dust filled the air. How is it? Everyone's eyes were fixed on the smoke and dust. When the dust settled, Everyone could see a huge pit that was a few hundred meters wide and a few dozen meters deep on the ground. Lu Ming stood straight in the middle of the pit, one of his feet stepping on Ghost Moon's face. Ghost Moon lay in the deep pit like a dead fish, blood spewing from her mouth and her body twitching nonstop. Ghost Moon had completely passed out. His body twitching was just an instinctive reaction. The scene fell silent all of a sudden. It was so quiet that only the sound of people gasping could be heard. Jiu, who had been arrogant and defeated Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian, was now trampled under Lu Ming's feet like a dead fish. It was a terrible sight. It had only been less than a minute, but the impact it gave was too strong. Suppression. This was a complete suppression. The next moment, the crowd burst into loud cheers. "Ha, good hit, good stomp. This is so cool. Isn't this Ghost Moon very arrogant? A new genius who wanted to step on the older geniuses to rise up is now a dead fish. How dare you be so arrogant in Nine Dragons? Don't you know how to spell the word death?" Many people laughed out loud, expressing the comfortable thoughts in their hearts. Long Qianli looked at Lu Ming in shock. He had just fought with Ghost Moon and knew how terrifying she was. He and Wang Haoxian were crushed even when they joined forces, but Ghost Moon was easily defeated by Lu Ming. Lu Ming had defeated Ghost Moon easily in his normal state without even using his blood meridian. What was even more terrifying was that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier. He did not use his profound cultivation to suppress Ghost Moon, but he relied on pure combat power. Long Qianli smiled bitterly. It had only been half a year. Half a year ago, he had not taken Lu Ming seriously. The reason why he had brought them out of the 100 Venerated Mountains was entirely because of Lu Ming and the group's loyalty, as well as Ruan Tingting's sake. That was why he had helped them. However, in just half a year, he realized that Lu Ming had completely surpassed him. Chapter 825. 825 The Exchange Meeting. Lu Ming was very calm. There was nothing to be proud of. He was not afraid of anyone in a battle of the same level. Although Jiu's bloodline was at the 2nd rank of the divine level, it was impossible for the bloodline martial technique he had comprehended to reach the upper-grade demigod level. Jiu had only executed a low-grade demigod-level martial arts technique. Even if the cultivation technique that she cultivated was also of the divine level, she was still crushed by Lu Ming in a battle of the same level. Lu Ming did not even use his dragon power or blood meridian fusion to defeat Ghost Moon easily. At that moment, Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on Blood Sword 19. "Do you still want to continue fighting?" Lu Ming's voice was transmitted to Blood Sword 19 as he stepped on the Ghost Moon. Instantly, everyone's eyes turned to look at Blood Sword 19. Lu Ming's intention was clear. He was clearly challenging Blood Sword 19. In that case, would Blood Sword 19 dare to accept the challenge? Blood Sword 19's expression turned ugly. His cultivation was also at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier, which was the same as Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. The bloodline he had awakened was also at the 1st level of the divine level, and his combat strength was about the same as Long Qianli and Wang Haoxian. Even Ghost Moon had been crushed. If he went up, wouldn't he be humiliating himself? Don't think that you're so great just because you defeated Jiu. There are many divine-level prodigies at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier in our Heavenly Corpse sect who are stronger than Jiu. It's just that they didn't come today. Do you dare to go to the gathering in half a month? The 19th Blood Sword said coldly. It seems like you don't dare to fight. If you don't dare to fight, then say you don't dare to fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Get lost. Lu Ming kicked Jiu, who was like a dead fish, towards Blood Sword 19. A disciple of the Heavenly Corpse sect walked out and caught Jiu's body. "Let's go!" Blood Sword 19 shouted, and then the group of people from the Heavenly Corpse sect fled with their tails between their legs. Many people looked at Lu Ming in awe. He had crushed Ghost Moon and forced Blood Sword 19 to retreat with a single sentence. What kind of power was this? This was especially true for Luan Fengyun and the other Luan family disciples. They were all extremely terrified. Wan Fengyun looked at Lu Ming in a daze. He still could not believe it. Half a year ago, Lu Ming was still suppressed by him and could only use the formation to resist. However, half a year later, Lu Ming could easily defeat those god-level prodigies, let alone him. A divine bloodline. He must have used the token to enter the blood pool and awaken a divine bloodline. Otherwise, he can't be this strong. Wan Fengyun's mind whirred, and then he quietly retreated with the other Luan family youths. Brother Lu, thank you. Long Qianli stepped forward and looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. He cupped his fists and said, Brother Long, you're too polite. Lu Ming smiled. Brother Lu, you've really shocked me. In just half a year, you've actually reached such a realm. I'm ashamed. Long Qianli sighed. Lu Ming's rapid progress showed that his potential was much greater than his. His future was unpredictable, just like those who ranked at the top of the list of top 1,000 talents, especially those in the top 20 or even the top 10. Those were all unpredictable monsters. I was just lucky. Lu Ming smiled faintly and brushed it off lightly. He did not continue to talk about this topic. Long Qianli didn't say much. He said, Brother Lu, in half a month, there will be an exchange under the divine nine-dragon cauldron in the first dragon's vein. At that time, besides the top 100 geniuses of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect, most of the people will participate. The powerful descendants of the Sky Demon Valley will also participate. With Brother Lu's combat power, you will be a great help to our side. The top 100 on the list of top 1,000 talents, aren't you going to participate? And the Talisman Amulet sect, no one came? Lu Ming asked curiously. The Talisman Amulet sect has been very weak in the past few thousand years. Although it is still one of the 4 overlords of the Eastern Barren Territory, it can no longer be compared to the other 3. In the past few hundred years, it has been very low-key and will not send anyone to participate. It will only send its supreme talents to participate in the War of Providence. Long Qianli nodded and began to explain. And the top 100 on the list of top 1,000 talents are the key to the Battle of Providence. They won't be exposed easily and are all training and cultivating in secret places. They won't show up before the Battle of Providence. Oh. Lu Ming nodded. Brother Lu, I'll take my leave then. Long Qianli said. He then looked at Ruan Tingting and said, Tingting, are you going to be Di Tian's royal guard with me or are you going out to accompany your friend? Brother Long, you can go back first. I'll stay here with Xian, Lu Ming, and the rest. Ruan Tingting said with a smile. N. Long Qianli nodded, then cupped his fists to Lu Ming and the rest before he left. Lu Ming, you're so powerful. You're much more powerful than you were half a year ago. Xiao Xian flew in front of Lu Ming, her big eyes sparkling as she looked at him, her face full of admiration and worship. Cough, cough. Lu Ming coughed drily and rubbed his nose. He was a little embarrassed by Xiao Xian's stare. Pervert, let's go. Xian Yanqing walked over and snorted. He held Lu Ming's arm and pulled him forward. Hee, Miss Xian Yanqing is jealous. Xiao Xian's voice came from behind. Of course. Xian, you're too mischievous. Why don't you check if Miss Yanqing is present? Ruan Tingting's soft voice came through. Tingting, come, I'll hold you. Fatty's voice rang out. Go to the side and cool off. Ruan Tingting's voice came out, followed by Xiao Xian's bell-like laughter and Fatty's sigh. Wang Haoxin looked at Lu Ming and the rest with a complicated expression, then followed them. The group of people headed toward the Sea Cloud sect. Following that, everyone would occasionally tour the mountains and rivers, and occasionally stop to cultivate. They were all young people, and after not seeing each other for half a year, they had many common topics to talk about. They got along very well, and even Xian Yanqing started to talk more. During this period of time, Lu Ming did not feel too tense. It was a rare moment of relaxation. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. There were still 3 days left before the exchange between the supreme talents of the Empyrean Heavenly Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse sect, and the Sky Demon Valley. Lu Ming, are you going to the exchange? Wan Tingting asked. Of course, I'm going. All the heaven's favorites from the 3 overlord forces are here. I can't miss such a rare event. Besides, I want to see the powerful descendants of the Sky Demon Valley. Lu Ming said. The Sky Demon Valley could be said to be the most ancient power in the East Baron. It had existed since ancient times, much longer than the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Talisman Sect. The Sky Demon Valley was made up entirely of demon beasts. There were countless powerful demons in it, and there were countless descendants with the bloodline of divine beasts. They were extremely powerful. Some people said that the Heavenly Demon Valley was the strongest force in the East Baron, even stronger than the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Moreover, in every generation, the Sky Demon Valley would give birth to many descendants with the bloodline of divine beasts. These descendants were undoubtedly the proud children of heaven among the demon beasts with extremely terrifying combat strength. That's great. Let's set off together. If we arrive early, we can take a rest there. Wan Tingting said. Tingting, can I go? Qiao Xian blinked her big eyes. Among all of them, Qiao Xian was much weaker and could not be considered a heaven's favorite. And the exchange meeting was attended by geniuses. Chapter 826. 826 The Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Go, let's go together. Whoever doesn't let you in, I'll kick him away. Lu Ming laughed. Qiao Xian was overjoyed. Immediately, Qiao Xian spoke to her father, Qiao Long, and Qiao Long naturally agreed. For Qiao Xian to be able to attend such a gathering, it would definitely increase her knowledge and insight. It would be of great help to her future cultivation. Immediately, the group flew toward the center of 9 dragons. A journey of tens of millions of miles was not long for them. They chatted as they flew, neither fast nor slow. They arrived in less than a day. From tens of thousands of miles away, a majestic mountain range could be seen in the distance. It was one of the 3 dragon veins in the center of 9 dragons. After traveling tens of thousands of miles, countless buildings appeared in front of them. There were all kinds of palaces, pavilions, and even shops. There was everything one could think of. This seemed to be a city, but this city had no city walls. It was just countless buildings. People were coming and going in the building, and it was very lively. The group walked in and found that there were restaurants, inns, shops, and everything one could think of. In 9 dragons, there were countless people and a vast territory. There were many specialized gathering places. In some places, city walls would be built, such as the Grand Gathering City. Some places didn't even need city walls, just like what they saw. The group strolled along the streets. Tingting, is the exchange on the dragon vein? Lu Ming asked. That's right, and it's at the dragon's head, under the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Why don't we go and take a look first? Wan Tingting said. All right. Lu Ming was also very curious. The group of them passed through the buildings and flew in the direction of the dragon's head. Not long after, they arrived at the dragon's head. At the dragon's head, there was an extremely wide flat land. In the middle of the flat land, there was a huge fighting stage with many seats around it. According to Wan Tingting, this was the place where the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had held their grand events in the past. For example, grand events such as a worship to the heavens or a competition between geniuses would be held here. As such, the gathering that would be held a few days later was also held here. However, this was not what attracted everyone's attention. Everyone's eyes were completely attracted by a large cauldron in front of the open space. At the forefront of the dragon's head, there was a huge cauldron. The cauldron was pitch black and as large as a mountain. It reached into the clouds and was at least several thousand meters tall. From a distance, it looked extremely majestic. One could see true dragons spiraling around the cauldron, looking extremely lifelike. This is the divine 9-dragon cauldron. At the head of each of the 9 dragon veins, there is a divine 9-dragon cauldron. Legend has it that the divine 9-dragon cauldron was there when 9 Dragon City was built. No one knows how many years have passed since then. It is said that it is a supreme treasure used by ancient experts to suppress the 9 dragon veins. Wan Tingting said. Supreme treasure? Why didn't anyone take it? Lu Ming asked curiously. No one can take it away, not even the strong cultivators of the imperial path. The divine 9 dragon cauldron has been in this world for a long time, never moving. It seems to have merged with the dragon vein and has existed since ancient times. Wan Tingting said. Lu Ming was shocked. He looked at the divine 9 dragon cauldron in the distance in amazement. As for Fatty, Xian Yanqing, Xiao Xian and the others, although they had heard of it before, it was their first time seeing it. They were also shocked. There were 9 huge cauldrons with real dragons carved on them. They were several thousand meters tall and had existed since ancient times. It was indeed a magnificent sight. Lu Ming and the rest were not the only ones nearby. There were many other people who stopped in their tracks to watch. It seems that someone is approaching the divine 9 dragon cauldron. Xian Yanqing said. The others also saw that a burly young man was walking toward the divine 9 dragon cauldron. The divine 9 dragon cauldron exudes a huge pressure. Unless you're an expert, you can't approach it. Wang Haoxian, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. Let's go up and take a look. Lu Ming said and strode forward. When they were within 10,000 meters of the divine 9 dragon cauldron, they felt a huge pressure emanating from the cauldron. At this moment, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. Just as he was within 10,000 meters of the divine 9 dragon cauldron, he suddenly felt that the bloodline of the 9 dragons was somewhat strange. It seemed to be a little anxious, but also a little excited. What's going on? Is it because of the divine 9 dragon cauldron that the bloodline of the 9 dragons is different? The divine 9 dragon cauldron is known as the 9 dragons. There are pictures of real dragons carved on it to suppress the dragon veins. Perhaps it really has something to do with dragons, which is why the bloodlines of the 9 dragons are abnormal. Lu Ming secretly guessed in his heart. They endured the pressure and continued forward. Very soon, Xiao Xian could not take it anymore and stopped in her tracks while Lu Ming and the rest continued forward. The closer he got, the more he felt the magnificence of the divine 9 dragon cauldron. It was tall and magnificent, full of vicissitudes, as if it had crossed time and space from ancient times. The 9 dragon bloodline in Lu Ming's body seemed to be even more anxious and excited. The power of the bloodline seemed to be boiling. Bang! Bang! In front of him was a burly young man who kept walking forward. His muscles were tight and his qi and blood were soaring. The qi and blood formed a dragon that was roaring. That's not a human, it's a demon, a flood dragon. Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He could tell that the burly young man in front of him was not a human, but a flood dragon. He must be a genius from the Sky Demon Valley. Demonic Beast Level 6, able to transform. The demon youth walked forward step by step until he reached the bottom of the divine 9 dragon cauldron. He took a look at the divine 9 dragon cauldron and actually reached out his hands to hold a corner of the divine 9 dragon cauldron. That flood dragon is really whimsical. He actually wants to hold the divine 9 dragon cauldron. In his dreams, that's a treasure that even emperors can't touch. Someone sneered in the distance. Sure enough, the flood dragon roared at the sky, but the cauldron didn't move. In the end, the flood dragon even revealed its true form. It was a scarlet flood dragon over 200 meters long. It grabbed the cauldron with its claws, but the cauldron didn't move at all. In the end, the flood dragon had no choice but to return to his human form and step by step, he retreated. At this moment, the 9 dragon bloodline in Lu Ming's body became even more violent, as if it was about to rush out of his body. Lu Ming had an idea. He controlled the 9 dragon bloodline. He could not let the 9 dragon bloodline appear here. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if word got out. Lu Ming immediately retreated. Roar! At this moment, the 9 dragon bloodline seemed to let out a shocking roar. The roar came from Lu Ming's body, but no one else could hear it. But at this moment, a shocking scene happened. Thump! The divine nine-dragon cauldron in front of him suddenly shook. Suddenly, the dragon veins trembled and the wind and clouds changed. A terrifying pressure burst out from the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Not good, retreat. Lu Ming and the rest hurriedly retreated. After retreating 10,000 meters, the pressure was much less. After the divine nine-dragon cauldron shook for a while, it became still again, as if everything that had just happened was an illusion. However, the scene was already in an uproar. Everyone felt it. It couldn't be an illusion. Chapter 827. 827 Chapter 827 Fighting the Flood Dragon. The divine nine-dragon cauldron, which even sovereign path experts couldn't move, actually moved. Why? Why did it suddenly move? Countless people speculated in shock. There were even many people who had already passed the news back to the elders in their families. Is it because of the nine-dragon bloodline? The divine nine-dragon cauldron moves because of the bloodline of the nine dragons? Lu Ming guessed in his heart. Let's go, we're leaving this place. Lu Ming said. He estimated that there would be a big shot coming soon to check on the situation. After all, the divine nine-dragon cauldron, which had remained motionless for ages, suddenly moved. It was too abnormal. Bang! Suddenly, a tall figure appeared behind Lu Ming and blocked his way. It was the monster flood dragon. Your Excellency, why are you blocking my way? Lu Ming frowned. The flood dragon exuded a powerful aura. It glared at Lu Ming with a look of surprise and greed. Your bloodline is very special. If you let me strip you of your bloodline, I can spare your life. The flood dragon said coldly in an overbearing manner. Its greed grew even stronger. It seemed to have sensed the abnormality of the nine-dragon bloodline in Lu Ming. Whoa, is there something wrong with this reptile's brain? Who does he think he is to want to take away someone's bloodline? The fatty was instantly enraged when he heard that. He glared at the flood dragon with an unfriendly gaze. Demon race insect, how dare you be so arrogant here? This is nine dragons. Wan Tingting also said coldly. How dare you insult me? You're courting death. The flood dragon shouted coldly, a cold light in its eyes. Nest, this stinky bug is still so arrogant. I suggest that we behead him and roast him. The fatty shouted and even swallowed a mouthful of saliva. You're looking for death. The flood dragon roared and threw a punch at Fatty. I'm not afraid of you. Fatty rushed forward with his battle axe and swung it down. Clang! The flood dragon's fist hit the fatty's battle axe with a loud bang. The fatty's expression changed, and his fat trembled violently. He retreated 7 or 8 steps and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The flood dragon's level had reached the peak of the 6th level, equivalent to the peak of the 6th level spiritual ocean realm, while the fatty was only at the 5th level spiritual ocean realm. None of you will leave today. The flood dragon's eyes glowed with a cold light. This flood dragon's bloodline purity has already reached 20%. It's extremely powerful. Wang Haoxian appeared beside Lu Ming and said, a demon beast possessed the bloodline of a divine beast. Depending on the purity of the bloodline, their talent and strength would be different as well. Ordinary descendants were said to contain the bloodline of a divine beast, but the very thin ones might only have 1% or 1/10 of it. It was extremely rare to reach 1/10, which was 10% purity. Such descendants were extremely powerful and could even compete with god-level geniuses who had awakened a god-level bloodline. The flood dragon in front of him had the bloodline of a true dragon, and it had already reached 20%, which was even more terrifying. However, the flood dragon that Lu Ming had encountered on the Golden Sand Island in the chaotic astral ocean only contained 1/10 of the true dragon's bloodline at most. Bang! The flood dragon strode toward Lu Ming. On the side, Xian Yanqing and Wang Haoxian were about to make their moves. Let me do it. Lu Ming waved his hand and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Boom! The flood dragon was very domineering as it threw a punch at Lu Ming. Since you don't want to hand it over, I'll take it myself. The flood dragon's lips curled into a sinister sneer. A murderous intent flashed across Lu Ming's eyes. "Fatty, let's have flood dragon meat tonight." Then, he took a step forward and struck out with his palm. The palm and the flood dragon's fist collided. Bang! There was a muffled boom in the air. The flood dragon's expression changed drastically, and its body trembled as it retreated. Thump! Lu Ming took a step forward and covered 100 meters in an instant. He caught up with the flood dragon and struck out with his palm again. Roar! The flood dragon roared and transformed into a 200-meter-long crimson flood dragon. It was covered in thick scales and its claws were as sharp as knives. It tore at Lu Ming. Lu Ming struck out with his palm again, clashing with the flood dragon's claw. The flood dragon roared and its huge body retreated madly. One of its finger bone was broken by Lu Ming. This worm dragon had 20% of the true dragon's bloodline, which was about the same level as Guiyu. Naturally, it was completely crushed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming strode forward and grabbed one of the flood dragon's claws. With a loud shout, he flung the huge flood dragon's body into the air and it crashed heavily onto the ground. Boom! The ground shook violently. However, the ground here had been suppressed by the divine nine-dragon cauldron all year round and was already indestructible. The huge flood dragon's body smashed down, but the ground only shook, not cracked at all. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and the flood dragon cried out in pain. It was unknown how many bones had been broken, and blood was flowing all over its body. Nearby, the others who were watching were dumbfounded. Lu Ming was too violent. Such a powerful worm dragon was like a useless worm in Lu Ming's hands. Let me do it. Let's have flood dragon meat tonight. The fatty shouted as he raised his battle axe and hacked at the flood dragon. The flood dragon roared and struggled. The moment the fatty slashed down, its body continued to shrink. At the same time, its body was filled with a bloody light, like a blood-colored flame burning. However, he was still a step too slow. As blood splattered in all directions, one of his legs was cut off by the fatty. Buzz! In the next moment, the water dragon turned into a ray of blood light and disappeared. Lu Ming had wanted to give it to the fatty, but the moment he relaxed, the flood dragon ran away. He actually burned the divine beast bloodline in his body. Even if he doesn't die, his future will be cut off. Lu Ming muttered. The flood dragon had burned the divine beast bloodline in its body to increase its speed. Of course, this was also the reason why Lu Ming had let his guard down. Otherwise, the flood dragon would not have been able to escape even if it had burned its divine beast bloodline. Next, it actually ran away. Fortunately, it left a leg behind. The fat man cried out gloomily and ran towards a flood dragon's leg that was dozens of meters long. Let's go back and roast some flood dragon meat. Fatty held onto the flood dragon's leg and carried it on his shoulder. He laughed so hard that he almost drooled. Nearby, the others were speechless. This group of people couldn't really be planning to roast the flood dragon's leg, right? Many people even swallowed their saliva. The flood dragon meat that contained the bloodline of a true dragon was a great supplement. Fatty, let's go back and roast some meat. But you should keep it first, Lu Ming said with a smile. Fatty put away the leg and the group left happily. They came to a small mountain peak hundreds of thousands of miles away and started a bonfire to roast the leg. Fatty was a bone-ash-grade glutton, and his roasting skills were top-notch. Furthermore, he always carried sauce, vinegar, oil, salt, and other condiments in his storage ring. Not long after, the dragon's leg turned golden yellow. Oil dripped down, and a fragrant smell assailed the nose. The flood dragon meat was cut into pieces, and everyone began to eat. Flood dragon meat contained the blood of a true dragon, so it was definitely a great tonic. The taste was also surprisingly good. Even Xian Yanqing, Ruan Tingting, and the other girls had a great appetite. Chapter 828 828 Chapter 828 Defeng. When the flood dragon meat entered his stomach, it turned into a warm energy that spread throughout his body. The wisps of true dragon blood in it circulated through his body, which was extremely beneficial to the body and could increase its strength. If it could be consumed in the long term, the benefits would be endless. Ah, Lu Ming, how can there be no wine when there's meat? Here you go. The fatty waved his hand and jars of fine wine appeared. They flew towards Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing and the rest. Everyone opened the wine jars and began to drink in big gulps. Fatty, I didn't expect your skills to be so good. Ruan Tingting took a few sips of wine, but she didn't use her internal energy to force the wine out. Immediately, 2 red flowers floated on her beautiful little face, making her even more beautiful. Fatty was stunned and almost drooled. Tingting, how is it? Follow me from now on, and I guarantee you'll have a good life every day. Xian Yanqing, Qiao Xian, and the rest looked down on Fatty. This reason was too shallow. Just as Lu Ming and the rest were gobbling down the food and wine, many important figures came to the dragon's head, below the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. They received the news that the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, which had remained motionless for ages, had moved. They immediately rushed over to check the situation. Unfortunately, no matter how they tried, there was no movement from the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. They didn't know why the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron had moved. In the end, they could only leave it at that. More than 2 hours later, Lu Ming had his fill. As for the rest of the flood dragon meat, the fatty put it away in the name of storage. Just like that, they sat cross-legged on the small mountain peak and cultivated on their own, waiting for the exchange meeting 2 days later. Wang Haoxian wasn't cultivating, and she was in a mess. In the past, she had been focused on cultivation and the only person she was close to was her brother. She had no other friends and was out of place with the other Wang family geniuses. However, in the past few days when she was with Lu Ming and the rest, she felt very relaxed and comfortable. She suddenly felt that she enjoyed such an atmosphere. Is this what friends are? Wang Haoxian muttered and shook his head. He told himself that he was only following Lu Ming because he had no other choice. If there was a chance, he would still avenge her brother. Although she tried her best to convince herself, her heart could not calm down, and she did not have the mood to cultivate. Naturally, the others did not know that Wang Haoxian was having wild thoughts. Time passed very quickly during cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. On this day, the huge platform under the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron was bustling with people. Many handsome and beautiful young men and women with different auras flew into the sky and landed on the seats around the open space. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Fatty arrived at the place. They found an area and sat down. There are so many heaven's favorites. Most of the top 300 heaven's favorites have appeared. Wang Haoxian looked around and said softly. Among them, only Wang Haoxian was on the list of top 1,000 talents. Naturally, he knew more people than Lu Ming and the rest. Not long after, tens of thousands of people gathered around the open space. Of course, most of the young people were here to watch the show. It was impossible for them to participate in the exchange meeting. The exchange this time was destined to be a battle between the top figures. The Heavenly Corpse sect is here. Someone shouted. From the north, a group of more than 200 people, all dressed in black robes and wrapped their bodies, flew over. Of course, all the people here were young people and there were no elders. The most eye-catching person was the one flying in the front. He was tall and carried a coffin on his back. The coffin was pitch black. Even though it was broad daylight and there were so many people, everyone still felt that it was gloomy and very scary. He's Corpse Demon, ranked 102nd on the list of top 1,000 talents. He's refining corpses like a devil. Wang Haoxian's face was unusually serious. The others' faces also revealed a grave expression. The 102nd place on the list of top 1,000 talents was absolutely terrifying. Obviously, Sher Mo was the leader of the Heavenly Corpse sect this time. More than 200 people from the Sky Corpse sect stood in the void, motionless. Buzz. And NBSP, whoosh. At this moment, a series of air-piercing sounds came from the east as young figures flew over. The number of people was also about 200. However, these young men all had different auras. Some revealed a fierce look, some were full of heroic spirit, some were extremely cold, and some were extremely charming. The clothes they wore were also of strange shapes and colors. The demon clan of the Sky Demon Valley had arrived. The demons of the Sky Demon Valley also stood in the sky, exuding a powerful aura as they looked down. Their gazes swept across the entire place with faint disdain. The heavenly talents of the demon clan of the Sky Demon Valley had the bloodline of the divine beast. They thought they were superior and looked down on human warriors. It was only a rumor in the past, but it seemed that it was true. "It's that flood dragon." The fat man clicked his tongue and whispered. Among the demons, they saw a burly young man with a broken leg. He was the flood dragon that Fatty had cut off 2 days ago. The flood dragon's eyes were extremely gloomy as he swept his gaze across the entire scene. In the next moment he saw Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the rest were also in the east. As soon as the flood dragon saw Lu Ming and the rest, a cold, killing intent appeared in its eyes. It whispered a few words into the ear of a young man in red armor next to it. Then, the red-armored young man looked at Lu Ming and the rest with a cold gaze. "Buzz. Buzz." The flood dragon and the young man in red armor appeared above Lu Ming and the others in an instant. Their powerful and violent auras exploded and pressed down on Lu Ming and the others. "What's going on?" At the side, the others were shocked. Lu Ming and the group sat still. "You guys were the ones who crippled Ao Qian's leg," the young man in red armor said coldly as he looked down at Lu Ming and the rest. "Flood dragon meat. It tastes really good." The fat man licked his lips and sneered. "You're looking for death." The red-armored young man shouted in anger. His aura became more violent, as if he was going to kill someone in the next moment. The other young demons looked on with cold smiles. "Friends from the monster race, the exchange hasn't started yet. Please go back now." Right at this moment, a voice that was as clear as the wind drifted over from the distance. As the voice faded, a figure appeared in the air. It was a young man wearing a green robe. He had sword-like eyebrows and a handsome face. He had a gentle smile on his face, but there was an invisible majesty coming from his body. "Di Feng, it's Di Feng." Many people cried out in alarm. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Di Feng, who was ranked 101st on the list of top 1,000 talents, was said to be a descendant of martial Emperor Di. He had the talent of his ancestor and was extremely powerful. Di Feng. The red-armored youth's eyes were filled with fear. Di Feng looked at the red-armored youth and the flood dragon and smiled. "You two, please return. If you want to fight, wait for the exchange to begin. There will naturally be a battle." Since Di Feng had spoken, the red-armored youth naturally had to give him face. He snorted coldly and looked at Lu Ming and the rest. "You broke one of Ao Qian's legs, I will pay you back double." With that, he and Ao Qian flew back to the demon team. Chapter 829. 829. Lu Ming failed to be selected. "Brother Mo, Brother Peng, how should we proceed with this exchange? Why don't you give us your opinion?" Di Feng smiled as he looked at a golden-robed young man among the corpse demons and demons. "In 9 Dragons, your Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace definitely has the advantage in terms of the number of geniuses. If all of you go up, we'll naturally be at a disadvantage. How about this? For each level, each of the 3 sides will send out 10 people and take turns to compete. When one side is completely eliminated, the side with the most people remaining will win. What do you think?" The demonic corpse opened his mouth. His voice was extremely hoarse, like the sound of metal rubbing against each other. "Good, this is exactly what I want." The golden-robed young man of the demon clan spoke. Clearly, he was the leader of the geniuses of the demon clan. "Alright, I have no objections either. However, let's forget about the lower 3 levels of the spiritual ocean tier. How about we start directly from the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier?" Di Feng said. "Alright." The demonic corpse and the golden-robed young man of the demon clan both nodded in agreement. "In that case, let's choose our own candidates." With that, Di Feng flew down from the stands and began to discuss the candidates with a few other human geniuses. This battle could be considered the most intense clash before the Battle of Providence. It could test the other side and also take the opportunity to suppress the other side's momentum. None of the three sides dared to be careless, and they would send their strongest candidates. After a while, a young man flew toward Lu Ming and the rest. After he arrived, he cupped his fist at Kong Jin and said, "Brother Kong Jin? It's me." Fatty was slightly taken aback. Brother Kong Jin's cultivation should be at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm, right? Young Master Di Feng, I would like to invite Brother Kong to participate in the 5th level spiritual ocean realm competition. What do you think? The young man said. Me? I'm honored by young Master Di Feng's high regard for me. I agree. The fatty laughed heartily, feeling a little smug. So many people had chosen him to fight, so he was naturally proud. Lu Ming and the rest were moved. It was probably because Fatty had displayed his powerful combat strength in the battle with the people from the Heavenly Corpse sect some time ago. That was why he was invited to fight. Many thanks. The young man laughed, then turned around and left. Why didn't you invite Lu Ming? Ruan Tingting was a little surprised. Logically speaking, Lu Ming had displayed even more powerful combat strength in the battle with Jiuyu of the Heavenly Corpse sect half a month ago. Why was Lu Ming not invited to the battle at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier? Xian Yanqing, Fatty, Xiao Xian, and the others were also surprised. Most of the God-tier geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents are at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean realm. I guess that because there are too many God-tier geniuses at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean realm, and they don't know Lu Ming's bloodline level, they didn't choose him. Wang Haoxin said. Many of the God-level geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents were at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean realm, such as Wang Haoxin and Long Qianli. With enough people, it was normal that they didn't choose Lu Ming. For example, Wang Haoxin and Long Qianli, who had only awakened first-class divine bloodlines, were not selected. Lu Ming smiled. Since he did not need to fight, he could relax and watch the battles between the other geniuses. It was good to broaden his horizons. Not long after, the candidates for the three parties were selected. This time, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace will be the host. Let us begin. Di Feng laughed as he announced a name. Buzz. A young figure flew up to the center of the fighting ring. His body was like a blade, and an extremely sharp aura filled the air. This person's cultivation was at the peak 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Looking at his cultivation technique, he was the Jiang family's chosen one. Who wants to fight me? The Jiang family's sovereign looked in the direction of the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Sky Demon Valley and shouted, "I'll do it." From the direction of the Heavenly Corpse sect, a figure flickered out and landed on the fighting ring. The aura he revealed was also at the peak 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Thump. Without saying anything, the young man from the Jiang family stepped forward. The sharp aura around him became even more intense. His entire person was like a battle blade. His arm was like a saber, slashing toward the young man from the Sky Corpse sect. The young man from the Heavenly Corpse sect quickly retreated, distancing himself from the Jiang family's sovereign. With a wave of his hand, 9 refined corpses appeared in front of him. The 9 refined corpses exuded an ancient aura. They were wearing metal armor and holding bronze spears. The aura that the 9 refined corpses emitted had actually all reached the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier. The young man from the Heavenly Corpse sect was only at the peak 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, yet he was able to control 9 refined corpses at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier. He was absolutely terrifying and had an unparalleled talent in refining corpses. Kill. The Jiang family's chosen had a serious expression on his face as he struck out with his palm. Thump. He clashed with a refined corpse and sent it flying. The refined corpse's skin was as tough as iron, and it was invulnerable. The Jiang family's paragon had only sent the refined corpse flying, but he hadn't cracked it. After the first refined corpse was sent flying, the other 8 refined corpses pounced toward the Jiang family's chosen. 8 long spears pierced through the air, creating a terrifying sonic boom as they flew toward the Jiang family's chosen. The Jiang family's paragon let out a long howl as his body glowed with a black light. He was like an incomparably sharp divine weapon as he slaughtered his way through. The 2 of them were definitely extremely powerful geniuses. Although they weren't god-level geniuses, their battle prowess was definitely terrifying among those of the same level. The 2 of them engaged in a great battle, and dozens of rounds passed in the blink of an eye. The Jiang family's elites charged forward, trying to break through the refined corpse's defense and attack the heavenly corpse sect's disciples. The best way to break a refined corpse was to defeat the person controlling it. However, it would be extremely difficult for the Jiang family's elites to break out of the 9 refined corpses, which were 2 levels higher than him and were not afraid of death. The situation turned into a stalemate. After more than 100 rounds of fighting, the Jiang family's chosen one ran out of True Yuan and was thrown off the fighting stage, ending in defeat. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace had already lost the first battle in the exchange. This caused the expressions of many people to turn unsightly. After the young man from the Heavenly Corpse sect won, he also flew down the fighting ring and sat down cross-legged to recover. He could have chosen to continue fighting, but it was clear that he had used up a lot of his energy. He could only fight again after he had recovered. The Heavenly Corpse sect had won this round, so they should send one more person to fight. Buzz! Another young man from the Heavenly Corpse sect stepped onto the fighting ring. This time, it was the Sky Demon Valley's turn to fight. This time, the Sky Demon Valley sent a tall young man. He was a demon tiger with the bloodline of the divine beast Sky Tiger. However, the concentration of the bloodline was not even 10%. Among the demonic beast descendants, it was very rare for a bloodline to reach 10% purity, just like how it was rare for humans to awaken a divine bloodline. However, even if it did not reach 10% purity, it was close. This demonic tiger was very powerful and defeated the disciple of the Heavenly Corpse sect after a few dozen moves. In this way, the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Sky Demon Valley each won one battle. I'll continue to battle. This time, it's the turn of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, right? The eyes of the demonic tiger turned to the geniuses of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. I'll do it. In the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, a young man flew up. This time, the chosen one was the Dongfang family, which ranked first among the 6 great ancient families. He was the pride of the Dongfang family. It was said that the Dongfang family had inherited 2 extremely powerful god-tier cultivation techniques. This elite cultivated the 9 gods heaven-shattering scroll, which could borrow the power of a god. It was as if a god had possessed him, and his combat strength was extremely terrifying. This time, the elite of the Dongfang clan had defeated the demonic tiger. I'll go and meet this flood dragon. Maybe I can get another piece of flood dragon meat. This flood dragon seems to be of the wind attribute. Fatty said as he licked his lips. The surrounding crowd was speechless. Fatty, can you do it? The other party is a descendant with 10% of a divine beast's bloodline. Ruan Tingting was a little worried. Fatty's 3rd bloodline had yet to awaken. Could he defeat his opponent? Tingting, don't worry. This Fatty isn't that weak. Lu Ming smiled. The Fatty's combat strength was extremely powerful. Before Lu Ming had awakened his divine bloodline, he was not confident that he could defeat the Fatty. In a battle of the same level, even if the other party had a 10% concentration of the divine beast bloodline, Lu Ming still believed in Fatty. The flood dragon from last time was too high in level, reaching the peak 6th level spiritual ocean realm and having 20% of the divine beast bloodline. That was why Fatty was suppressed. Ha, oh, Lu Ming knows me best. The Fatty laughed. Carrying his axe, he flew up. Little bug, let this lord fight you. Fatty chuckled. Fat pig, you're looking for death. This monster race worm dragon was wearing a green robe and had a gloomy expression. Ao Feng, cripple this fatty for me. In the demon race area, Ao Qian's cold voice rang out. Last time, one of his legs had been cut off by Fatty's axe. What is it called? The flood dragon meat does taste good. There's still some left. When we're done, we'll go back and continue barbecue. The fatty grinned. This infuriated the entire monster race. Damn it, this fatty deserves to die. Kill this fat pig, this is preposterous. Many of the demon race's paragons shouted in anger as they looked at Fatty with killing intent. As for those from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, all of them had dumbfounded looks on their faces. Could it be that this fatty had really roasted the flood dragon meat? This is true, I saw it with my own eyes. Last time, someone saw Lu Ming and the others cutting off one of Ao Qian's legs and confirmed it. Many people looked at Ao Qian and found that he was indeed missing a leg. Their expressions became even weirder. Fatty, you're dead. I'll cripple your limbs. Ao Feng's expression was extremely unsightly. Nonsense, eat my axe. The fatty raised his axe and slashed at Ao Feng. A long spear appeared in Ao Feng's hand, and he thrust it towards the fatty. Clang! A loud sound rang out, and the long spear buzzed. Ao Feng's long spear trembled violently, and he was actually forced back a step by the fatty. How is that possible? Ao Feng roared in anger and waved his spear to fight again. Heaven-suppressing demon axe. The giant axe in the fatty's hand turned into a sky-splitting axe, and like a storm, it chopped toward Ao Feng. Clang! Clang! A continuous roar rang out on the fighting ring. The battle axe and the spear kept clashing, and Ao Feng had to take a step back every time they clashed. The other people on the scene were extremely shocked. It was obvious that Fatty had not awakened a divine bloodline, but he was able to suppress Ao Feng, whose bloodline concentration had reached 10%. This combat power was too terrifying. This person's combat strength is extremely strong. From the looks of it, his third bloodline hasn't awakened yet. If his third bloodline can awaken a divine bloodline, he has endless potential. We must find a way to rope him into our camp. Di Feng said to the person beside him. Martial Emperor Yi had many descendants. They were also competing with each other and were divided into many camps. That's right. However, this person's third bloodline hasn't been awakened yet. If he can't awaken a divine bloodline, everything will be for naught. Another person said, let's observe him for a while longer. Lu Ming and the beautiful Xian Yanqing are also rare talents. If I'm not mistaken, Lu Ming should have awakened a divine bloodline. We should keep an eye on him. Di Feng instructed. The other man nodded. Roar! At this moment, Ao Feng roared loudly and directly transformed into his original form, pouncing towards the fatty. Only when a demonic beast reverted to its original form could its combat strength be fully unleashed. Insect, watch me cut you! The fat man shouted. His face was pale as he said, It's fine, it's no big deal. My skin is thick. You're lucky this time. Alcuin stood on the battle stage and looked down at Fatty, saying coldly, What are you so arrogant for? If I awaken a divine bloodline, I'll torture you like an insect. The fat man shouted, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Fatty was not one to suffer losses. This time, he had been defeated so miserably by someone of the same level, mainly because he had not awakened his third bloodline. Fatty, I'll avenge you after the exchange. Lu Ming walked over and cast a cold glance at Alcuin. Alcuin looked straight into Lu Ming's eyes and smiled coldly. Lu Ming, Fatty, and the rest returned to the grandstand. Fatty began to heal his injuries. Who else wants to come up for a fight? Alcuin looked around and planned to continue challenging. There was complete silence. Although there were still a few people from the Empyrean Heavenly Divine Palace and Heavenly Corpse sect who had yet to fight, they were all ordinary Heaven's Pride experts. The combat strength that Alcuin had displayed just now was simply too terrifying. If they went up, wouldn't they just be looking for a beating? No one from either side went up. Let the heavenly demon valley win this round. Di Feng helplessly replied. In the battle of the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier, the sky demon valley won. However, Aoqun had no plans to head down. He looked around and said, since that's the case, I'll challenge your 6th level spiritual ocean tier expert now. Let's fight. What? You're at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier, and you want to challenge someone at the 6th level? He's too arrogant. The surrounding crowd shouted unhappily. Brother Peng, he's at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm. Is he really going to participate in the battle of the 6th level? Di Feng frowned as he looked at the golden-robed young man. That's right. Among the 10 people at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm, Aoqun's name is there. Among the 6th level, Aoqun's name is also there. It should be fine for a lower level to participate in a high-level battle, right? The golden-robed youth laughed. Of course you can. Di Feng nodded. It was naturally fine for a lower level to participate in a high-level battle, as long as he was willing. Aoqun wanted to participate in a battle at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean realm as a 5th level spiritual ocean realm. Who's going to fight? Aoqun looked around. I'll do it. A voice rang out. From the side of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, a young man flew up onto the battle platform. There was no lack of geniuses in the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier. The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect had many experts. This young man was the supreme talent of Di Tian's Imperial Guards. He had awakened a 2nd-rank divine bloodline and was extremely powerful. The next moment, the two figures collided. However, the result of the battle was shocking. In just a few moves, the Imperial Guard was forced to retreat. In the end, he even used bloodline fusion, but it was also useless. He was forced back to his original form and was thrown off the fighting stage while coughing out blood. Everyone was shocked. With a cultivation base 1 level lower, he actually defeated a prodigy who had awakened a 2nd-level divine bloodline. This was too terrifying. 50% divine beast bloodline. Di Feng's eyes flashed as he announced a shocking result. Countless people gasped. This Aoqun actually had 50% god-beast bloodline. That was too terrifying. This meant that half of Aoqun's blood was no different from that of a god-beast. If a human martial artist could not awaken a 5th-level divine bloodline, they would not be able to fight against someone of the same level. Even if they were 1 level higher, they would have to at least awaken a 4th-level divine bloodline. Furthermore, there were strong and weak divine beasts. Aoqun was obviously a flood dragon. His bloodline was inherited from a true dragon, so he must be even more terrifying. His body was invincible and his strength was boundless. Chapter 833. 833 Chapter 833 Suppressing Aoqun. Everyone's eyes opened wide in shock. The person who retreated was actually Aoqun. Aoqun was actually forced to take 7 steps back by Lu Ming's punch. How was this possible? On the other hand, Lu Ming's body only swayed a little. In a fist-to-fist exchange, Lu Ming actually had the upper hand. Was Lu Ming still human? He was simply a beast in human form. As expected of a flood dragon with 50% true dragon bloodline. It's really powerful. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with surprise. His cultivation was 1 level higher than Aoqun's, and he had already used 80% of his vital essence. With the prison-suppressing heaven technique, which was equivalent to a high-grade divine martial technique, he was so powerful that even Ao Qian and Jiu Yu had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood, let alone the geniuses who were 1 level lower than him. However, Aoqun only took 7 steps back. This was the first time Lu Ming had met someone whose cultivation level was lower than his but could still block his attack. Lu Ming was shocked. Aoqun was extremely shocked. However, after the shock, it was followed by endless anger. He, Aoqun, was a god's favored one. He had 50% of the true dragon's bloodline in his body, and his talent was heaven-defying. Now, in a head-on collision, he was forced to retreat by Lu Ming. This was unforgivable. Roar! Alcuin let out a dragon's roar. The muscles on his body tightened and swelled up, pushing up his red armor. His blood rushed into the sky, and he actually turned into a true dragon, roaring in the sky. Thump! He took a step forward and rushed toward Lu Ming. His huge fist, wrapped in a layer of red light, was aimed at Lu Ming. This punch was even more overbearing and shocking. Boom! 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 In Lu Ming's spirit ocean, the primordial qi in his body churned. The primordial qi in his body burst out and let out a tsunami-like sound. He used his fist to activate the prison's suppressing heaven technique and threw a punch. Boom! The two fists collided for the second time, stirring up a storm. Tens of thousands of eyes were once again fixed on him. Who would have the upper hand this time? In the hurricane, a figure stepped onto the battle stage and retreated. This time, he retreated 9 steps. It was still Alcuin. Alcuin was forced back once more and even further. As for Lu Ming, his figure only swayed a little. Other than shock, there was more shock. Lu Ming had actually suppressed Alcuin. In the Emperor's Sky Divine Palace, the eyes of Di Feng and a few of the strongest people shone brightly. Although they had already heard that Lu Ming had easily defeated Jiuyu of the Heavenly Corpse sect, they did not think too highly of him. His name was not even on the list of 10 people at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier. However, they realized that they had greatly underestimated Lu Ming's ability. With Lu Ming's combat strength, it was hard to find someone stronger than him among the experts at the 6th level of the spiritual ocean tier. The paragons of the Heavenly Corpse sect were also shocked. The most shocked ones were the Sky Demon Valley's elites. They knew how strong Alcuin was. With 50% true dragon bloodline, if he grew up, he would definitely become one of the pillars of the Sky Demon Valley. Now, he was suppressed by Lu Ming. Ah, Lu Ming, I want you to die. Alcuin howled and his body grew rapidly. In the end, he turned into a 500-meter-long red flood dragon. A dragon's roar was heard. Its huge claws, which were as large as mountains, swiped at Lu Ming, causing the space to tremble. Bang! Lu Ming's punch collided with the flood dragon's claw. His body trembled and he took a few steps back. Alcuin, who had returned to his original form, was stronger in all aspects. Alcuin's huge dragon body gave off a blood-red light. It was like the will of blood. This was the natural fighting technique of dragons. He roared and pounced on Lu Ming again. Then I'll suppress you. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. The prison-suppressing steel bloodline appeared above his head, and 2 rays of golden light shone brightly. Many people were shocked. They were not shocked at how advanced Lu Ming's blood meridian was. Instead, they were shocked that his blood meridian was too low level. Today was a gathering of geniuses. Divine-level bloodlines had appeared frequently, and everyone was already numb to it. A second-level divine rank bloodline was nothing. Lu Ming's combat strength was too strong. Everyone had thought that Lu Ming's blood meridian should be a 4th-level divine-level blood meridian, or at least a 3rd-level divine-level blood meridian. They had never expected that Lu Ming's blood meridian was only a 2nd-level divine-level blood meridian. It was unbelievable that a 2nd-level divine bloodline could be so powerful. Buzz! The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline trembled. Lu Ming's body turned into a ray of light and merged with the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline. The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline exuded a terrifying pressure. It was vast and heavy, as if it could suppress everything. Bang! The prison-suppressing steel shook and collided with the water dragon's claw. Alcuin hollered. His giant dragon body actually shook like a wave and he retreated. The prison-suppressing steel continued to shake and flew into the sky. It grew rapidly and finally became 10,000 meters tall. Like an ancient mountain, it pressed down on Alcuin. Alcuin hollered in rage. He felt a terrifying pressure and his body was filled with energy. He hollered and charged into the sky. The dragon was in the sky, trying to fight with the prison-suppressing steel. Boom! In the end, Alcuin was like a crawling worm. He was suppressed by the prison-suppressing steel and smashed into the fighting ring. A strange sound was heard. It was like a toad being hit by an iron hammer. It was accompanied by a shrill scream. The battle stage rumbled and the heavens and earth shook. Alcuin cried out in pain as blood splattered everywhere. He was almost crushed alive. Blood spurted out from his huge mouth like it was free. Bang! The prison-suppressing steel shook and continued to attack. The sound of the bone armor breaking could be heard. Alcuin spat out even more blood. The flood dragon's blood dyed the fighting stage red. Alcuin cried out in pain. He was already half dead and laid on the battle stage without moving. Only his eyes were still filled with shock. The prison-suppressing steel shrunk and transformed back into Lu Ming's figure, stepping on the dragon's head. Many people gasped in shock. He won. After Lu Ming used the blood meridian fusion, he easily defeated Alcuin and won. It was shocking that the demon race's prodigy, who had a 50% true dragon bloodline purity, was defeated by Lu Ming. Many people were guessing what Lu Ming's blood meridian was. Prison-guarding steel? What kind of bloodline was it? He had never heard of such a bloodline. It was too terrifying and its power was shocking. The moment he used bloodline fusion, he easily suppressed Alcuin. The divine monument expanded to 10,000 meters, and a flood dragon was suppressed below it. It was like a myth. Now, I'll send you on your way. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. The infinite dragon spear appeared in his hand. The sharp tip of the spear was aimed at Alcuin's forehead. No, don't help. Alcuin hollered. He had half of the true dragon's bloodline. He was a peerless genius of the monster race. He didn't want to die. He still had a bright future. With his talent, it was certain that he would advance to level 8 in the future and stand shoulder to shoulder with the human spiritual god realm. He could even break through to the supreme realm. He also had an ambition to break through to the supreme demon emperor's position and become an emperor, ruling the world. He still had so many goals that he had yet to achieve, so how could he die? They hoped that more of the heavenly demon valleys and the Emperor Sky Divine Palace's geniuses would die. That way, it would definitely be beneficial to the Heavenly Corpse sect. Brother Peng, this is too much. Di Feng frowned as he spoke. After all, Lu Ming was a genius of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. He could not just sit by and do nothing. That's right. It's a battle of life and death. It's normal for Lu Ming to kill Alcuin. Chapter 835. 835 Xian Yanqing's true identity. The two demon race heaven's favorites had ugly expressions. Their battle power was on par with the lightning bird. Even the lightning bird had been defeated, so what could they do? In the sky, the golden-robed young man's expression was unsightly. Fatty and the others cheered. Hee hee, it's really lively here today. At this moment, a faint voice came from the distant sky. This voice clearly came from a distance, but it seemed to ring in everyone's ears. In the crowd, Xian Yanqing's expression changed when he heard the voice. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. A total of 5 people stepped through the air. 3 of the 5 were young men. There were 2 men and a woman. Among the 3 young men, it was obvious that the young man in the purple and gold robe was the leader. Another man and a woman stood behind the young man. There were 2 old men beside the young man in the purple gold robe. The 2 old men gave people the feeling that they were ordinary people. They were like 2 ordinary old men who didn't know martial arts. There was no aura coming from their bodies. Naturally, they could not be truly ordinary people. Their cultivation was too high, giving others an illusion. The 2 old men chatted and laughed as they looked down. One of the old men seemed to be introducing something to the other. That seems to be Black Wind Knight. Suddenly, someone exclaimed. What? Black Wind Knight, the Black Wind Knight of the Imperial Sky Guards? That's him. I've seen him once. It's really Black Wind Knight. As soon as he said that, it caused more exclamations. Countless eyes turned to one of the black-robed elders. A venerable, it was actually a venerable. Venerable was a respectful title for a spiritual god realm master. In other words, this black-robed old man was a peerless master in the spiritual god realm. In the divine wilderness continent, martial emperors were the strongest. At the martial emperor realm, they dominated the world. The spiritual god realm was the closest realm to the martial royal realm. Usually it was rare to see one, but at this time, one had appeared. Then who were the other people? He actually wanted a venerable to accompany him. The arrival of Black Wind Knight eased the tense atmosphere on the fighting ring. Greetings, Black Wind Knight. The paragons of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace stood up and paid their respects. No need to be so polite. We have an important guest here today. I heard that there is an exchange meeting here, so I brought him here to take a look. Black Wind Knight said with a smile. Everyone was shocked. Honored guest? Who could be called a distinguished guest by Black Wind Venerable? The paragons of the four overlords of the Eastern Barren Territory, the Sky Corpse Sect and the Sky Demon Valley, were all here. Naturally, they were not from either side. Talisman Sect. Impossible. The Talisman Amulet Sect was in decline. It was not qualified to be called an honored guest by Supremacy Hei Fengyan. Other than the three forces, who else in the Eastern Barren Territory was qualified to be called a distinguished guest by the Venerable Black Wind? They are from the Central Continent. Black Wind Knight said with a smile. What? Everyone was shocked, including the paragons of the Heavenly Corpse Sect and the Heavenly Demon Valley. The Divine Wilderness Continent was divided into 5 huge regions. Central Continent, Eastern Barren, Southern Nether, Western Desert, Northern Plains. The Central Continent had been the most prosperous and powerful region among the 5 regions since ancient times. The Central Continent was a vast land with many talents and experts. It was the best in the 5 regions. These people were actually from the Central Continent. These people are from the ancient Saint dynasty of the Central Continent. This is a prince of the ancient Saint dynasty. Black Wind Knight even threw out a bombshells. The scene was in an uproar. Those who knew the distribution of forces in the Central Continent were even more shocked. The Central Continent was different from the Eastern Barren Territory, where the 4 forces ruled. The Central Continent's ancient Saint dynasty had been passed down for countless years. It had suppressed the entire Central Continent and unified it. The entire Central Continent was under the control of the ancient Saint dynasty. It was said that the secret chamber of commerce was established by the ancient Saint dynasty of the Central Continent. Even though some people had heard that the situation in the Central Continent had changed and that the royal family had weakened, the ancient Saint dynasty was still the most powerful force. The young man in the purple and gold robe was a prince of the ancient Saint dynasty. No wonder Black Wind Knight called him an important guest. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Back then, Lian Song had mentioned that Xian Yanqing was from the Central Continent. However, Xian Yanqing did not go into detail when Lu Ming asked him. The purple-robed young man took a step forward and cupped his fists. I'm Xie Zhen, a prince. I heard that all the top talents of the East Barren are gathered here today, so I came to take a look. I hope I didn't disturb you. Your Highness is too polite. I am Di Feng. Di Feng stepped forward and cupped his fists. So it's Brother Di, nice to meet you. Xie Zhen returned the greeting with a smile. Then, Shi Mo and the golden-robed young man from the Heavenly Demon tribe greeted Xie Zhen. The ancient Saint dynasty of the Central Continent was not to be underestimated, and they naturally wanted to build a good relationship with it. The Eastern Barren Territory was vast, with hundreds of large regions. However, geniuses on the level of Di Feng, Shi Mo, and the golden-robed young man would have limitless potential. If they reached a certain level, they would be able to clash with the geniuses of the other regions. Now that they had the chance to befriend the prince of the ancient Saint dynasty, they would not miss it. Lu Ming, I'm leaving. Let's leave this place together. At this moment, Lu Ming heard Xian Yanqing's voice. His voice was filled with anxiety. Lu Ming turned his head and saw Xian Yanqing hiding in the crowd. His eyes were filled with anxiety. What's going on? Lu Ming was stunned. He sent a voice transmission to Xian Yanqing. Let's go, there's no time to explain. Xian Yanqing's figure kept retreating in the crowd, as if he wanted to quietly leave this place. Meanwhile, in the sky, Xie Zhen suddenly frowned. Then, his eyes lit up and he turned around. His eyes were filled with 2 rays of light as he looked in Xian Yanqing's direction. Ha, little sister, why didn't you say hello when you saw your brother? You still want to leave quietly? Xie Zhen laughed and in a flash, he appeared above Xian Yanqing's head. Xian Yanqing's face turned pale. One of the old men and the 2 young men behind Xie Zhen also looked at Xian Yanqing with lightning-like eyes. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned and revealed doubtful expressions. Xie Zhen called her little sister. Could it be that Xie Zhen's younger sister was still here? When did Xie Zhen's sister get mixed up in the crowd? The crowd followed Xie Zhen's gaze and finally landed on Xian Yanqing. It's her! At this moment, many people's eyes lit up. It's actually her. The lady who has been walking with Lu Ming is actually Xie Zhen's younger sister? Doesn't that mean that she is the princess of the ancient Saint dynasty of the Central Continent? Many people were discussing in shock. Ruan Tingting, Xiao Xian, Fatty, and the rest also looked at Xian Yanqing in shock. Xian Yanqing actually had such an identity. Lu Ming was also a little stunned. Although he had always felt that Xian Yanqing's identity was very mysterious and had some speculations, he did not expect that she was the princess of the ancient sage dynasty of the Central Continent. The scenes of the past could not help but surface in Lu Ming's mind. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.